I had to spend $1 million every day, or the burn ledger would punish me. On the first day, I had 8 minutes left and the full million still sitting in my account. Trey Reddick, the man who stole my job, was laughing in my face. So I spent all of it on emergency bonuses for the workers standing behind him. Every phone in the lobby chimed. My balance hit zero. My name is Aiden Barrett. The rule was simple. I had to burn the full million before midnight for 10 straight days. During the final minute, my body would lock from the fingers upward. If even $1 remained when the clock hit zero, the system would take 1 year from my life. Then it would reset the trial. Then Northstar's estate counsel walked in and confirmed I owned 18% of the company. The guard stepped away from the man giving orders. I fired the hiring manager who had ordered security to drag me outside. His badge died before his smile did. Uncle Barrett had raised me on overtime, cheap dinners, and borrowed cash. I had promised myself nobody would use money to make my family kneel again. I thought the hard part would be finding expensive things to buy. By day 10, every normal payment route would be locked. Someone I loved would have minutes left. The same million would have to solve both problems. To understand how I reached that room, we need to go back 47 minutes. Northstar Tower had just rejected me after I passed the interview. The late hiring event was supposed to change my life. I had passed the skills test and the interview. Then I stayed after closing while the hiring manager checked my references twice. At 11:05 at night, he slid my resume back across the desk. The position has been filled, the hiring manager announced. I looked at the empty name line on the offer packet. By whom? The manager glanced at my frayed cuffs. Someone with stronger backing. A few night shift employees laughed near the lobby coffee station. One stared at Uncle Barrett's old dress shoes and covered a laugh. Maybe he can apply for the cleaning crew, the employee whispered loud enough for me to hear. I kept my eyes on the manager. You told me I scored highest. The hiring manager pushed the packet into the trash. Scores open doors. Connections decide who walks through them. The elevator opened behind me. Trey Reddick walked out wearing the new hire badge meant for my chest. He was Northstar President Dominic Reddick's son, and he used that surname as permission to do anything. Kenzie Wallace held his arm. Kenzie had been my girlfriend that morning. By midnight, she had apparently completed a merger. Trey tapped my badge with one finger. Looking for this? I stared at Kenzie. You could have ended things before showing up on his arm. Kenzie checked the lobby to make sure everyone was listening. I got tired of waiting for you to become useful, Aiden. Trey lifted his wrist, showing off a watch that cost more than Uncle Barrett's yearly rent. She wanted a man with a future. Kenzie smiled at him. And a bank account. That one landed because she knew exactly where to aim. Uncle Barrett had paid for my certification with a credit card he was still hiding from Aunt Barrett. Kenzie knew that. She also knew I had promised to pay him back with my first salary. Trey leaned closer. My father made one call. I got the job, the office, and the girl. You got a bus ride home. He should have stopped there. Trey shoved my folder against my chest. Pick that up and thank me for teaching you how Ridgeport works. I dropped the folder. Then I punched him. His head snapped sideways. His new hire badge spun on its clip. The coffee station went quiet. Kenzie grabbed Trey's face. Aiden, are you insane? In my defense, I told her, he kept presenting targets. The hiring manager slapped the security button. 3 guards moved from the front doors. Trey wiped his lip and saw blood on his thumb. His shock lasted 1 second. Then he straightened, lifted his chin, and started issuing orders again. Trey pointed at the guards. Hold him. I want him kneeling when I call Dominic. My phone vibrated. The screen had gone black. One line sat in the center. Burn LED compatible. Successor found. A second line replaced it. 10-day ownership trial available. Then the terms appeared one at a time. $1 million would enter a daily burn account each morning. The full amount had to leave by midnight. The final minute would lock my body. Failure would cost 1 year of my life. A button appeared beneath the warning. ACCEPT. The nearest guard grabbed my shoulder. Trey laughed through his split lip. Go ahead, call whoever poor people call. I pressed accept. My right index finger locked straight. Pain shot through the knuckle. Then the finger released. The system had given me a sample. Cute. My screen changed. Daily burn Akinti, $1 million. Time remaining, 54 minutes and 31 seconds. A final asset line appeared beneath the timer. Merrick Langley transfer. 18% Northstar Consumer Group. Merrick Langley had co-founded Northstar. He had died 2 weeks earlier. The screen gave no reason for sending his shares to me. That question could wait 54 minutes. The guard tightened his grip. I drove my elbow into his ribs and stepped free. Take your hand off a shareholder, I told him. The hiring manager laughed so hard he had to hold the desk. A shareholder? Trey spread his arms toward the workers. Listen to him. One punch and he unlocked billionaire delusions. My phone rang. The caller identified himself as Calvin Pembroke, estate counsel for Merrick Langley. His voice was fast and sharp. "Mr. Barrett, stay inside Northstar Tower," Calvin ordered. "Merrick's transfer just activated. Brennan Oakes and I are crossing Ridgeport now." Trey heard enough to sneer. "Nice acting. Did your uncle answer with a lawyer voice?" The hiring manager reached for my phone. I pulled it away. Calvin continued, "Do not sign anything. Do not surrender your device. Buy us time and stay inside." The call ended. Help was coming. The timer did not care. I tried the obvious moves first. A cash withdrawal failed. Gift cards failed. A same-night charity pledge would settle after midnight, so the system rejected it too. The burn ledger wanted completed spending. Promises did not count. Trey watched each rejection flash across my screen. His grin widened with every failure. He raised his voice so the new audience could hear. "Your imaginary bank is declining you," Trey announced. "This keeps getting sadder." The manager pointed toward the doors. "Apologize to Mr. Reddick, pay for his watch, and I may tell security to leave your face alone." I looked at the watch. It was untouched. Trey still held out his wrist. 50,000. Call it a poverty lesson. "I'll remember the price," I told him. Trey waved more employees over so they could watch. One night shift worker pushed forward with a hardship form. Trey snatched it from her. "Perfect. We needed paper for his apology." Kenzie aimed her phone while Trey slapped the form against my chest. "Sign it," the hiring manager ordered. "Thank Mr. Reddick and maybe security lets you walk out." The worker reached for her form. A guard blocked her. The manager fed it halfway into the trash slot beside a lobby sign. "Her landlord can wait. Mr. Reddick can't." I caught the paper before it disappeared. Her emergency bonus still hadn't cleared. Her landlord changed the locks at midnight. A cardboard box under the desk held more rejected hardship requests. The sign above it carried the employee emergency pool QR code. My timer showed 10 minutes and 43 seconds. Trey pointed at the form in my hand. "Go ahead, Aiden, apologize on the back." I scanned the code instead. The shareholder portal opened without asking for a password. The manager saw the screen and lunged. "That page is internal." I turned away from him and selected emergency bonuses. The portal listed every worker currently clocked inside the tower. It also offered an immediate funding option. I entered $1 million. Trey read the amount over my shoulder and burst out laughing. "Do it. Let everyone watch your fake transfer fail." The manager joined him. "That account cannot accept outside money." My timer reached 8 minutes. I pressed confirm. Every employee phone in the lobby chimed at once. The burn account dropped to 0. Day 1 complete. For one beautiful second, nobody understood why the workers were staring at their screens. Then the first employee shouted her bonus amount. Another worker checked twice and covered his mouth. The night shift worker with the landlord problem started crying. She ignored the manager and stepped behind me. The employees who had laughed followed her. Trey looked around and found his audience standing on the wrong side. Expensive mistake. The hiring manager jabbed at the guards. "Remove him now." The nearest guard hesitated, then folded his arms. "I just received more from him than Northstar paid me all year. You remove him." The front doors opened. A broad man in a dark suit crossed the lobby first. Brennan Oakes was Merrick's security chief, and every guard noticed him before he spoke. One guard reached for me anyway. Brennan snapped the decorative velvet rope off its brass post and stretched it between us. "Mr. Barrett stays inside the perimeter," Brennan warned. I looked at the 6 feet of red velvet protecting me from 3 armed guards. Brennan did not smile. Temporary tactical boundary. The man could turn furniture into military doctrine. I respected it immediately. Calvin Pembroke entered behind him carrying one slim folder. Merrick's estate counsel did not open it. Calvin checked my name on his phone, dipped his head, and spoke. "Mr. Barrett, Merrick Langley's 18% Northstar position is active under your ownership." Brennan lowered his head once. "Security package transferred with it." The guards changed posture before Calvin finished speaking. Beside them, the hiring manager grabbed his badge and forced it against the desk reader. His reader flashed red. I had already opened his employee profile. "Your first decision?" Calvin asked. I tapped terminate. The manager's badge went dead in his hand. His smile lasted another second. The badge won. The former manager shook the dead badge at me. "You can't do this," tapped the red reader. "I just did." He turned toward the workers. "Tell him who runs this lobby." Nobody moved. Nobody in that lobby would kneel for a paycheck that day. I looked at Trey's new hire badge next. Trey backed away. "My father is president." I tapped his new hire badge. "You stole a job you never earned. Now you can steal a ride home." I canceled his appointment. His badge turned red beside the manager's. Trey called Dominic. The call went unanswered. I opened his onboarding package. A reserved company ride and an office key still sat under his name. I reassigned both to the night worker. Her phone chimed again. The key opened the office Trey had bragged about, and the ride would get her home before her landlord changed the locks. Then Brennan lifted the cardboard box of rejected hardship requests and handed it to Trey. "Delivery assignment," Brennan said. "Curb." Trey stared at him. "I'm not carrying that." Brennan raised the velvet rope. "Perimeter opens when the box moves." The workers watched Trey carry every rejected request through the lobby behind 6 feet of red hotel velvet. That confidence had lasted less than an hour. New personal record. Kenzie moved faster than both dead badges. She released Trey's arm and wrapped both hands around mine. "Aiden, I was angry," Kenzie insisted. "Trey pushed everything too far. We can fix us." Trey stared at her hands. "Kenzie." She ignored him. "I always knew you were meant for more." "You changed boyfriends when the balance changed," I told her. "Banks call that a transfer." I peeled her fingers off my sleeve. "Stay with the account you already opened." The workers laughed at her this time. Kenzie reached for me again. Brennan lifted the velvet rope between us. "Perimeter violation?" Kenzie stopped. Trey and Kenzie now stood on opposite sides of a red velvet rope from a hotel supply catalog. Trey pointed at me with a shaking hand. "Dominic will erase you." I pointed at his dead badge. "Tell him to bring a working one." Then one phone chimed with a different sound. A worker near the elevators looked down. A black ring icon flashed across his screen instead of bonus confetti. He saw me notice. The icon vanished. So did he, through the closing elevator doors. At the time, I thought the ring was some private security logo. I only knew the payment had reached someone outside that lobby. At 8 o'clock the next morning, my phone woke me with another alert. Daily burn account, $1 million. I owned no car. I had no secure home. A stranger already recognized my spending signature. Day 2 had started. The burn ledger dropped Day 2's million onto my phone while Brennan searched my apartment for a clean plate. He read the alert over my shoulder. "We need vehicles." I checked the empty counter. I was thinking breakfast. Brennan scanned the apartment windows like toast might attack them. Vehicles can contain breakfast. Yesterday, I had left Northstar Tower with an 18% stake and a private security chief. I still wore Uncle Barrett's shoes and owned no car. The black ring icon from the lobby bothered me. Someone had reacted to the first payment before I understood it. Brennan drove me to the Northstar Mobility showroom in a gray rental that rattled at every light. He looked personally insulted by the cup holder. The showroom belonged to a company I partly owned. Its staff still treated me as a trespasser. A black flagship sedan turned on the center platform beneath a silver reservation ribbon. I walked toward it. A senior clerk stepped between us. "The public display is on the other side." I pointed at the flagship. "I want this one." The senior clerk looked down at my borrowed shoes. "This vehicle requires verified funds." A status-conscious customer took photos inside the flagship. She lowered the window and stared at my repaired shoes. "His shoes have repair glue," the customer announced. "Please keep him away from my reservation." Brennan leaned toward me. "Permission to classify the ribbon as a hostile barrier?" "Stand down," I told him. "It looks expensive." The senior clerk smirked. "The entry models start near the rear doors." A junior clerk crossed the floor before I answered. Elena Parkhurst wore a plain Northstar Mobility badge. She had shared 2 classes with me years earlier. Back then, both of us carried lunches from home and called it a lifestyle choice. Elena looked at my face, then the shoes. "Aiden Barrett?" I looked at Elena's badge. "That depends. Are you selling cars or memories?" Elena took a tablet from the senior clerk. "Both, apparently. What do you need?" The senior clerk grabbed for it. "He needs directions." Elena kept the tablet. "He asked for the flagship." The senior clerk reached for the tablet again. Elena shifted it behind her back and kept her eyes on me. I pointed at the platform. "That sedan, 4 security vehicles from the fleet row, immediate delivery." The status customer laughed from inside the flagship. "He thinks this is a drive-through." Elena glanced at the fleet row. 5 vehicles? I nodded toward Brennan. "He says breakfast needs armor." Brennan nodded once. "Correct." Elena hid a smile and began entering the order. Her right hand trembled against the tablet for half a second. I noticed because Elena immediately tucked that hand beneath the screen. "You okay?" I asked. "Too much coffee," Elena answered. Then she turned the terminal toward me. "The order has to complete today. A deposit won't count as delivery." That matched the burn ledger's rule. A promise was useless. All 5 vehicles had to leave Northstar's control before midnight. The total killed the senior clerk's smile. The senior clerk snapped, "You cannot process that without management." Elena kept working. "I can process a card." The senior clerk pulled out her phone. "Fine, let's document this." She started a live stream and aimed it at my shoes. The senior clerk addressed her viewers. "Unemployed man attempts $1 million purchase. This should be educational. The status customer turned her camera toward me too. Apparently, humiliation had become a group project. Then, Kenzie Wallace walked through the showroom doors with the livestream open on her phone. My ex had changed outfits since the lobby. She had also changed her story. Kenzie hurried to my side and touched my arm. Aiden, I came to apologize. The senior clerk moved her livestream closer. You know him? Kenzie looked directly into the camera. We were together before Trey manipulated everything. Yesterday, she had called poverty proof that I was useless. Today, she had discovered editing. I removed her hand. You found the showroom quickly. Kenzie squeezed my sleeve. I was worried. I peeled her fingers away. You followed the money. Kenzie's eyes shifted toward the flagship. I followed you. Elena stepped between us with the payment terminal. Aiden, I'm ready when you are. Kenzie looked at Elena's junior badge. This is who you're trusting? A clerk? Elena held the terminal steady. A clerk with the terminal. Move. Kenzie's smile tightened. She moved closer to my arm. Elena set the payment terminal between us. Calvin Pembroke had handed me a matte black card that morning. It carried no bank logo. The burn ledger symbol sat where a normal card number should have been. The senior clerk aimed the livestream at the card. That is fake. The status customer opened the flagship door and stepped out. Obviously. Kenzie leaned closer to me. Aiden, you don't have to prove anything to these people. She said it while staring at the car. I handed the card to Elena. The senior clerk blocked the terminal. If this fails, I'm calling security. Brennan looked at the showroom's velvet stanchions. I pointed at him. No tactical rope. His disappointment was professional. Elena moved the terminal around the senior clerk. I'm running it. The cards slid into the reader. Nothing happened. The livestream comments raced up the senior clerk's screen. She turned the phone so the showroom could see them. Viewers called the card fake, demanded police, and mocked my shoes. Trey had apparently sent friends. The senior clerk crossed her arms. Remove him. I watched the terminal. The status customer reached for the flagship door again. I'd like my car cleaned after this. Then every display in the showroom went black. The rotating platform stopped. Across the floor, the flagship and 4 vehicles in the fleet row flashed their lights at once. My name and shareholder profile filled the main terminal. Payment approved. The flagship unlocked for me. Its door opened toward the status customer and pushed the reservation ribbon against her knees. Her smile vanished. Then her judgment developed a survival instinct. She brushed the ribbon off her dress and touched my arm. I was protecting the car. I can ride with you and explain the passenger controls. Kenzie's head snapped toward her. I handed the owner key to Elena. She has the seat. Elena caught it one-handed. The status customer's offer died in front of both cameras. The senior clerk slammed her supervisor key against the console. Red bars covered all 5 vehicle screens. A reversal clock appeared. 19 minutes and 59 seconds. Approval isn't delivery, the senior clerk announced. Nothing crosses until management clears him. Then she used her supervisor override, climbed into the flagship, and drove it sideways across the delivery bay. The status customer scrambled away from the open passenger door. Her loyalty had lasted 12 seconds. The flagship blocked the scanner. Behind the wheel, the senior clerk folded her arms while Trey's friends celebrated on the livestream. The pending vehicle charge left $60,000 in my burn account. I pointed at a compact sports car near Elena's desk. Add that for her. Elena looked from the car to 6 detail workers in wet uniforms. One wore split gloves wrapped with tape. Use the rest on them, Elena told me. Real contracts, safe gear, pay the nights they already worked. Kenzie's smile tightened. That little performance is obvious. Elena held up the owner key. You arrived after the payment started. I approved the crew package. $60,000 became back pay, wage advances, and safety equipment already inside the building. 6 phones chimed, contractor stickers came off, new gloves came on. The senior clerk pointed through the windshield. Touch those vehicles and you're fired. The worker with the taped gloves held up his new contract. You gave a contractor an order. He hired an employee. 2 workers rolled the side barrier upward by hand. Another hooked the powered polisher cart to the flagship's rear tow point. The senior clerk jumped out when the cart began dragging her blockade sideways. The worker with the taped gloves peeled his old contractor sticker from his badge and slapped it across her supervisor key. She clawed at the sticker while her own livestream zoomed in. The status customer turned her camera on the senior clerk. She almost damaged that car. The senior clerk reached for her phone. The customer backed behind the newly contracted crew. I don't work for you, she snapped. The worker with the taped gloves looked at his new badge. Neither did we 5 minutes ago. That line stayed on the livestream. The customer abandoned her former ally with professional speed. The crew pulled the flagship clear while the livestream watched. 4 security vehicles crossed the scanner behind it. Elena drove the flagship through last with 14 seconds left. My balance hit 0. Day 2 complete. Brennan inspected the detail crew's new equipment. Do they count as an armored unit? I pointed at the polishers. They clean cars. Brennan nodded. Support division. One worker laughed. Then the others did. The showroom director arrived after the crew had moved every vehicle. The senior clerk raised one hand. I supervised. The worker with the taped gloves pointed at the tire marks across the bay. She blocked delivery. The director removed her luxury desk badge. Rear floor. Management can review you there. The status customer pointed toward the flagship. What about the passenger seat? I nodded toward the detail crew. Ask support division for a ride. The flagship idled outside with Elena holding the key. The director offered Elena the senior sales desk. I held out the new operations tablet. I need an operations assistant. Take it. Elena looked through the glass at the detail crew. Their contracts stay? Handed her the new tablet. They were the purchase. Her hand trembled again when she removed the junior badge. She covered it by holding the new tablet with both hands. I'll do it, Elena answered. The director updated Elena's access. The status customer and Kenzie reached the passenger door at the same time. Both handles stayed locked. Elena touched the driver's key. The passenger door opened for her. The status customer stepped back. Kenzie pulled the handle twice. Her face went red. Kenzie turned on Elena. Don't confuse a temporary job with a relationship. Elena stepped into the passenger seat. Then stop auditioning for both. I almost applauded. Kenzie grabbed my sleeve. Aiden, talk to me privately. I removed her hand. I did that for months. Then I closed the flagship door. The fleet rolled behind us in a black line. At the curb, the detail crew stood in new equipment. Behind them, the senior clerk filmed us leaving from the rear floor she used to mock. Then every phone inside the flagship started buzzing. The senior clerk had deleted her live stream. Too late. Someone had mirrored the first half and cut the video before the shareholder approval. The clip showed an unemployed applicant pushing exactly $1 million through a company showroom while staff called the card fake. The caption called it money laundering. Kenzie had shared it. Elena looked at the repost count. She's trying to make you look criminal. She needs me guilty, I answered. Otherwise she just switched sides for cash in public. Calvin's voice came through the dashboard. A private invitation just arrived from Crescent Ridge Estates. Trey Reddick issued it. Dominic Reddick is listed as guarantor. Elena opened the attached note. One line had been added beneath the auction time. Temporary St. MAAIA. May wait outside. Elena read it twice. Her jaw tightened. I handed her the bidder's authorization and tapped the screen. Tell them temporary staff is holding the paddle. Trey built the auction around one assumption. A man spending $1 million a day could never walk away from an expensive bid. He was right about the spending. He was catastrophically wrong about the walking. Elena Parkhurst was already in the flagship's passenger seat when her bidder tablet chimed at 8 o'clock. Day ye a tree burn account, $1 million. Trey's note still sat beneath the alert. Temporary staff may wait outside. Elena looked at me. We can decline. We need a secure home, I answered. And Trey needs another lesson. Brennan Oakes checked the invitation's attached auction paddle. Lightweight, poor striking balance. I took the paddle from him. It's for bidding. Brennan waited again. Any object is for striking if morale collapses. That was how the three of us arrived at Crescent Ridge Estates before noon. The gate attendant scanned my invitation, then blocked Elena with one arm. Temporary staff must wait outside, the attendant recited. Trey stood beyond the gate filming. He had arranged the insult and waited for it to perform. I took the bidder authorization from Calvin's packet and placed it on Elena's tablet. She's my operations assistant and my authorized bidder, I told the attendant. Scan her again. Elena's tablet flashed green. The gate opened for her. Kenzie tried to follow without scanning. The gate closed across her path. Trey had to wave his girlfriend through manually while Elena walked in holding my paddle. The auction had not started, and he was already behind. Halfway up the terrace steps, Elena paused and pressed 2 fingers to her chest. She caught me looking and lifted the paddle. Keep moving, Elena told me. Trey's filming. She walked ahead before I could ask twice. The property event occupied a hill above Ridgeport. 2 giant showpiece estates faced each other across a private road. A quieter lakeside property sat beyond the trees, closer to the water and farther from every camera. I preferred the lakeside place immediately. Trey preferred whatever had the largest audience. He waited on the main terrace with Kenzie Wallace beside him and a champagne glass in his hand. The viral showroom clip played on a wall screen behind them. It ended before my payment approval, exactly as planned by whoever cropped it. Trey raised his glass when I approached. The suspected money launderer made it. Kenzie left his side and moved toward the empty chair beside me. Elena sat there first. Then she took the bidder's paddle from the table. Kenzie stopped with one hand on the chair back. That seat is for guests. Elena checked her operations badge. Good, I'm working. Trey laughed. You promoted a showroom clerk into a rented accessory. I looked at Elena. Did the invitation include a return policy for bad opinions? No, Elena answered. The seller probably assumed adults were coming. Trey's smile tightened. He still had time to behave. Nobody had accused Trey Reddick of using time wisely. An estate worker approached with a tray. Trey took another glass, bumped the tray with his elbow, and spilled champagne across the stone. The worker knelt to collect the broken glass. Trey snapped his fingers. Use your hands. The guests are waiting. Leave it, I told the worker. Trey turned toward me. She works for the property. She works for the seller, Elena answered. You haven't bought anything. The worker stood. Trey stepped toward the glass, realized the cameras were watching, and stopped before his polished shoe touched it. His own mess remained between us for the rest of the bidding. Good. I wanted him looking at it. I watched the other estate workers lift their heads. There were housekeepers, cooks, ground staff, and 2 gate attendants. They belonged to the seller's service team, but Trey already spoke to them like furniture included in the closing price. Elena looked at me once. We had found the day 3 spend. The auction host called everyone toward the terrace stage. He explained one rule before opening the first showpiece estate. A bidder could activate the paired estate option. Once activated, the winning price would apply to both showpiece properties. The winner had to close both that night. I raised my hand. So, 18 million means 18 for each house? The host nodded. 36 million total. Trey heard me ask. His grin widened. Good. Let him hear fear. The lakeside estate remained outside the paired option. Its seller wanted a quiet fixed-price deal and a fast deposit. Calvin had already confirmed my Northstar shares could secure the remaining balance. The burn ledger only cared about the money that left today. The auction opened the first showpiece estate at $6 million. Elena lifted our paddle. Trey looked at her instead of me. 7. Elena waited for my nod. 8. Kenzie leaned close to Trey. Don't let his clerk embarrass you. Trey raised without looking at the host. 10. He raised so fast he never checked his credit screen. The room turned toward Elena. She raised us to 12 million. A murmur moved through the terrace. The live stream camera swung our way. Trey's face changed when viewers started calling Elena the real bidder. Trey pointed at Elena with his glass. You're holding his paddle because he can't count that high. Elena lowered it into her lap. Then why are you following every number I give you? The crowd laughed. Trey called his father on speakerphone. Dominic Reddick answered with no greeting. He was Trey's father and Northstar's president, a man whose voice made employees sit straighter even through cheap phone speakers. Trey announced, Aiden is bidding against me at Crescent Ridge Estates. Dominic paused, then beat him. Trey gripped the phone. Guarantee my close. Dominic's answer came cold. You already have my guarantee. The credit screen beside Trey's paddle updated. Dominic Reddick guarantee, $20 million. Trey never looked down. He placed the phone beside the auction host's microphone so everyone could hear. My father backs me, Trey declared. Aiden, your borrowed fortune ends here. I looked at Elena. He brought a parent to an auction fight. Brennan folded his arms. Escalation confirmed. The host asked for the next bid. Elena raised the paddle. Trey stood before she spoke. Paired estate option, 18 million. The terrace went silent. The host repeated the rule. 18 million per property. 36 million total if no higher bid is placed. Trey turned toward me with both arms open. Come on, Aiden. You love spending money. Show everyone that $1 million clip was real. Kenzie smiled again. She opened the floor plan and circled a bedroom with one finger. The auction clock started at 30 seconds. Elena held the paddle near her shoulder. She looked at me. Trey watched her hand. 20 seconds. Trey mouthed. Raise it. 10 seconds. I reached over and lowered the paddle onto the table. Trey blinked. The clock hit 0. The host struck the block. Sold! Both showpiece estates to Trey Reddick at 18 million each. Trey threw his head back and laughed. Kenzie kissed his cheek for the cameras. I let them enjoy 5 full seconds. The closing screen appeared behind the host. Total due, tonight $36 million. Trey spread his arms toward it. Worth every dollar. Then the host checked Dominic's guarantee. The host pointed at the credit screen. Mr. Reddick, the guarantee covers 20 million. Trey grabbed the phone. Dad? Dominic's voice came through the terrace speakers. I guaranteed 20, Dominic answered. I did not guarantee stupidity. Kenzie stepped away from Trey. Trey noticed. Where are you going? Kenzie pointed at the closing screen. You told me he covered everything. Trey stepped into her path. I can cover the rest. Kenzie looked at the $16 million gap, then at Trey's face. With what? Trey reached for her wrist. She pulled free in front of every camera. Trey tightened his grip. Don't make this ugly. Kenzie laughed once. You bought 2 houses you can't afford. Ugly already signed the papers. The livestream comments stopped calling me, broke and started asking whether Trey could count. Trey turned toward me. You tricked me. I lifted both hands. I stopped bidding. Trey jabbed a finger at the paired estate screen. You knew I'd activate the pair. I nodded toward his champagne. You announced your personality before the auction started. He was cooked, and the host had only used one rule. Kenzie stopped beside me. Aiden, I need a ride. Elena lifted the paddle off the empty chair. The fleet is assigned. Kenzie looked at me. You changed teams twice in 3 days, I told her. Walk slowly, maybe a third one finds you. She left through the public gate alone. Trey called after her. She never turned around. The host moved to the quieter lakeside property. I paid a $250,000 deposit from the Daily Burn account. My shares secured the remaining purchase price, and the key transferred immediately. The lakeside estate became mine at its original price, while Trey stood between two overpriced monuments to his own mouth. The burn ledger showed $750,000 remaining. I called the estate workers toward the terrace. Trey waved them away. Finish packing my houses. The estate worker Trey had ordered to pick up glass walked past him to the nearest showpiece estate. She closed the front door, removed the service key, and left it on the step. You told me to pick glass up with my hands, she told Trey. Close your own house. She crossed the private road toward my lakeside gate. The cooks followed with the lunch trays. Housekeepers rolled their supply caddies after them. The ground staff brought the utility cart. Both gate attendants killed Trey's temporary code and joined the line. Trey ran into the road. I'll double whatever Barrett offered. Nobody slowed down. I handed Elena the operations tablet after the last worker crossed. Now reward that. Elena opened the staff offer she had prepared after the champagne hit the floor. Same-day signing bonuses, guaranteed pay, and positions at the lakeside estate totaled $750,000. Phones chimed inside my gate. The Daily Burn account dropped with every acceptance. Day W free CHR. Brennan returned carrying Trey's paddle and the showroom's silver ribbon. He strapped the paddle to the flagship's hood like a captured hood ornament. Identification marker. Trey yanked it. The alarm screamed and flashed his face across the dashboard. Marker defended, Brennan reported. Then he rolled Elena a portable bidder's chair before the cameras. Command seat. She sat and watched Trey pound on my gate. He owned 2 houses and 0 people. Beautiful. Dominic called my phone before Trey stopped pounding on the gate. This time, Northstar's president spoke directly to me. Dominic's voice hardened. You embarrassed my son. I watched Trey pound on the locked gate. Your son bid $36 million against himself. Dominic lowered his voice. You think today made you powerful? I looked at the 2 empty houses. I think it made him homeless with extra steps. Dominic's breathing changed. Enjoy the lake, Aiden. I collect what belongs to my family. He ended the call. Inside the lakeside foyer, I pulled a champagne glass sliver from Elena's sleeve. Her fingers stayed on my jacket. Mine settled at her waist. You keep buying dangerous things, she said, watching my mouth. Today I bought the quiet house. She leaned closer. The gate intercom chimed. A black sedan waited beyond the public gate. A concierge stepped out wearing a black ring that matched the icon from the lobby phone. He carried a metal invitation instead of an auction paddle. Trey saw the car and straightened his jacket. Finally, my father sent someone useful. The concierge walked past him. Trey reached for the metal card. The concierge shifted it beyond his fingers without even looking at him. Vault 9 had been cut into the surface. The concierge stopped in front of me. Our casino has prepared a private table, $1 million minimum, no spending limit. Trey stared at the invitation. Why him? The concierge gave Trey one bored glance. You are already over your limit. Even Brennan looked impressed. I took the invitation and turned it over. How did you know my preferred amount? The concierge looked at the black ring on his hand. Vault 9 notices patterns. Then he returned to the sedan and left. Still, the stranger with the ring knew my exact daily amount. I thought 2 empty mansions would end Trey's little war. The black ring invitation moved it into a casino. The next man to challenge my money owned the room where rich men went to lose theirs. I went to Vault 9 with one goal: lose $1 million before midnight. The casino owner laughed when I told him. He kept laughing for 5 rounds. The day 4 deposit had arrived at 8 o'clock that morning. I ignored every normal purchase and carried the metal invitation until night. Money from the Daily Burn account bought things. It earned 0 impact points. Money I won through real risk counted as mine. That meant Vault 9 could solve both problems. I could burn the Daily Million, then use the result to earn something the system respected. The invitation opened Vault 9's private doors at 10:31 at night. The front host looked at Uncle Barrett's repaired shoes and blocked the scanner with his hand. Private room, the host told me. Public gaming is downstairs. I held the metal invitation against his scanner. Vault 9, private table, confirmed. The host removed his hand. His apology never arrived. His posture did. The same black ring concierge from Crescent Ridge Estates waited beyond the doors. He checked my metal card and glanced at Brennan Oaks. "Security stays behind the rail," the concierge announced. Brennan studied the gold casino chips stacked beside the table. "They're poorly shaped for throwing." "They're money," I told him. Brennan picked one up, tested the edge, and returned it. Dual-use asset. The high-limit room held one table and too many people pretending they never lost. My cropped showroom video played on a side screen. The caption still called me a money launderer. Vault 9 had invited me, prepared the table, and supplied the insult. Very efficient. A respected casino expert sat beside the dealer. His signed prediction cards covered the wall behind him. Patrons stopped talking when he touched one. A quiet spectator stood near the back wall. His black ring matched the concierge's. He carried no chips. The Vault 9 owner stood at the head of the table. He wore a white dinner jacket and smiled at every empty chip tray. He pointed toward the cropped video. "Ridgeport's newest shareholder has arrived. Tonight we learn whether his money survives without employees to bribe." The patrons turned their chairs toward me. The owner had prepared a private table and filled it with witnesses. He lifted my invitation. $1 million minimum. You brought exactly 1 million. "I'm trying to leave with 0, I answered. Several patrons laughed. The owner motioned toward the dice. "Then choose your grave." I pointed at the 3 dice. "Triple sixes." The expert finally looked interested. "One chance in 216 on a clean table," the expert warned. "Vault 9's payout is 20 to 1. The owner spread his hands. 5 rounds, 200,000 each. Same choice every time. The expert removed a silver marker from his case. 1 million says you change the bet before the 5th loss, the expert declared. Hold the same choice through all 5, and I pay you personally. I placed the metal Vault 9 invitation beside his marker. I change once, you keep this, and announce I had no method. The expert covered both with his hand. Accepted. The owner grinned and waved the dealer forward. My daily money could disappear while his expert turned my stubbornness into a second public failure. My timer showed 1 hour and 29 minutes. I pushed forward $200,000. The dealer released the dice. 2, 4, 5. The owner swept away my chips. 800,000 left. I placed the same bet again. "Good," I told him. "I came to donate." On the second roll, the dice missed again. The owner lifted my metal invitation from beneath the expert's marker and clipped it above a champagne bucket labeled "Donation." The room laughed at the new decoration. Before round 3, the expert slid his private membership card beside the $1 million marker. "Hold this bet through all 5, he declared, "and my seat goes with my money." I pushed another 200,000 toward triple sixes. The dealer tapped one finger beneath the rail. The roll missed by one face, and every die stayed inside the same narrow lane. That tap was the first useful thing the house had shown me. Round 4 landed 6, 6, and 1. A patron leaned over my final stack. "Sell me the last bet for 100,000. Keep some dignity." I covered the chips with my hand. Dignity is outside my budget. The owner doubled the drinks and called more patrons over. Near the back wall, the black ring spectator watched a spark move beneath the felt. The timer showed 4 minutes and 12 seconds. I pushed the final 200,000 toward triple sixes. "Last chance to save your million and your membership." The owner raised his glass. "Vault 9 accepts." The dealer rolled. 6, 3, 2. My final chips disappeared. The daily burn account hit 0. DAWay 4 complete. The expert stared at the unchanged marker. Then he pushed $1 million into my personal account. He took my invitation off the donation bucket and slid it back with his private membership card. I had earned the money and his seat by losing exactly as promised. The owner clapped slowly. "Congratulations, you became broke exactly as requested." I checked the personal balance. "Your expert disagrees." My phone vibrated beneath the table. Fortune override unlocked. 1UZ. The burn ledger gave no explanation. It gave me one bright button. I left it untouched. I sent Elena one message. DAWay 4 cleared. My operations assistant called before the screen dimmed. Elena Parkhurst skipped the greeting. "How much did you buy?" "I lost all of it." Elena went quiet for one beat. "You sound proud. I was extremely accurate." Elena exhaled. "Is the man with the black ring there?" I looked toward the back wall. The spectator had moved closer. "Yes." Elena lowered her voice. "Then don't let them choose every rule." She ended the call without asking me to leave. I kept the phone beside my chips. The owner noticed my empty chip tray. He should have ended the night there. Naturally, he made it worse. He looked around the room and raised his voice. "Mr. Barrett earned 1 million by proving he can lose. Shall we let him prove he can win?" The patrons banged the rail and called for another roll. They wanted to watch me lose twice. The owner pointed at the million the expert had just paid me. "Put every earned dollar on triple sixes. The house pays 20 million if it lands." The daily account was already empty. This money belonged to me and losing it would hurt. I pushed the earned million forward and set the expert's membership card beside it. The expert took a blank prediction card and wrote one word across it: fails. Then he signed his name beneath it. If triple sixes lands, the expert declared, I tear this up and retire my predictions. The owner's smile widened. Beautiful. We roll at sunrise when every private member can watch. I left the earned million on the felt. Call all of them. If your table lies again, I want every membership card in the room. He spent the rest of the night building an audience for my final loss. The owner sent clips of my 5 losses to every private member still awake. Each replay ended on my empty tray. Patrons arrived in evening jackets, golf clothes, and one hospital scrub top. Rich people hate missing a stranger, lose 7 figures. The owner let them place side bets against me. Every new wager made him louder. The expert moved his signed prediction card beside the dice. My money bought this roll, my reputation ends it. So does his rig, I answered. The dealer's eyes flicked toward the owner. Tiny reaction, useful clue. By sunrise, the richest patrons had crowded around the rail. The black ring spectator watched the table instead of me. At 7:52 in the morning, the owner finally nodded to the dealer. One roll, the owner announced. No complaints, no second chance. I pushed the earned million forward. The dealer lifted the cup. My phone still waited beneath the rail. I pressed the fortune override button. The dealer released the dice. Die 1 struck the rail and landed on 6. Another spun beside it. 6! The third die rolled toward the owner and stopped against his glass. One black dot faced upward. The owner started laughing. Then the table made a sharp electrical crack. The third die jumped. It turned once and landed on 6. Triple sixes. Nobody spoke for half a second. Then the entire table sparked. A strip of felt burned open near the dealer's hand. A dark metal plate showed underneath, wired directly beneath the dice lane. The dealer jerked his hand back and shouted, "The control plate melted." The owner's laugh died first. Beside him, the expert stared at the 3 sixes, then at the exposed plate. He picked up his signed prediction card and tore it straight down the middle. My name was on the wrong side, the expert admitted. The richest patron pushed away from the rail. Was that plate active during my games? The owner snapped at the dealer. Clear the table. The dealer stayed still. I leaned back. 20 million. The owner pointed at the burned felt. You damaged my equipment. I tapped the exposed plate. You rigged your equipment. His face hardened. Vault 9 will not pay a cheat. I raised my voice so every patron heard him. Repeat that clearly. The owner stepped closer. No payout. Seize him. The dealer removed both hands from the table and stepped away from the owner. You work for me, the owner barked. Pointing at the exposed plate, the dealer answered, I deal dice. I don't hide wires from members. That answer moved every eye toward the owner. Then the richest patron placed his membership card on the burned felt. Cash me out, the patron ordered. Every chip. 2 more patrons copied him. The owner turned on them. You paid for entertainment. Don't act offended because you finally saw the machinery. Membership cards hit the burned felt from every direction. One patron swept his chips into a rack and marched toward the cage. Another tore off his membership band. A third called 3 friends and told them to stay away. The owner had built an audience to watch me lose. Now those people were demanding their money back. The expert placed his torn prediction beside them. Pay Barrett first. The owner looked toward his security team. They looked at the growing cash-out pile. Vault 9 could fight me or survive its own members leaving. It could not afford both before breakfast. I tapped the winning dice. 20 million. Then they decide whether your doors stay valuable. The owner's jaw worked twice. He signaled the dealer. The dealer pushed the payout through. The richest patron checked it and nodded. $20 million hit my personal account. The burn ledger vibrated once. Personal risk, proof it, recognized. I impact points, plus 100. For once, losing had been the smartest thing I could afford. The owner watched his patrons collect their chips and walk toward the cage. He had lost money, members, and the right to pretend the table was honest. Expensive mistake. A small scorched piece had broken from the third die. The black ring spectator moved before the dealer noticed it. He picked up the burned chip with a folded cloth and slipped it into his pocket. He ignored the 20 million on my screen. I caught his eye. That belongs to the table. The spectator looked at my phone, then at the pocket holding the scorched piece. Vault 9 notices patterns, he repeated. He walked through a staff door before Brennan reached the rail. My phone rang at 8 in the morning. Aunt Barrett's name filled the screen. Her first breath sounded wrong. Aiden, Aunt Barrett whispered. Your uncle was hit by a car. I stood so fast the chair tipped backward. Aunt Barrett kept speaking. He's alive. His leg is broken. The driver is at Harborline Medical Center, and he keeps throwing money at us. Brennan was already moving toward the door. Then Aunt Barrett's voice cracked. He told me to pick it up from the floor. The Day 5 alert arrived under her words. Daily burn account, $1 million. I left the 20 million screen open on the table. The casino had taught me how to lose money. At Harborline, the man was about to learn what happened when I spent money on purpose. The supercar driver was throwing $100 bills at Aunt Barrett when I entered Harborline Medical Center. Uncle Barrett was alive. His left leg was broken, and the doctor expected a full recovery. That was the only medical explanation I needed. Aunt Barrett knelt beside the bills because the driver had ordered her to collect them. I caught her wrist before her fingers touched the floor. She looked up at me. Aiden, don't make this worse. The driver heard her and laughed. He wore a fitted jacket and a gold watch. Then he kicked another bill toward my aunt. 2 enforcers stood behind him near the waiting room doors. Your uncle stepped into traffic, the driver announced. I'm being generous. A phone on his enforcer's shoulders streamed the whole scene. The caption accused a poor family of chasing supercar money. He kept the camera on Aunt Barrett and smiled whenever the comments praised him. The driver pointed at the camera. Apologize for wasting my morning, and I might cover the cast. Aunt Barrett looked at Uncle, then at the money. She started to lower herself again. I moved the streaming phone toward the driver's face. Repeat the crawling part. His smile sharpened. She picks up every bill, on her knees. The livestream heard him clearly. Good. He had repeated the cruelty before I touched his car. Uncle Barrett gripped the side of his wheelchair. He ran the light. The driver looked at the cast around Uncle's leg. Poor people always remember traffic laws after meeting a rich car. I helped Aunt Barrett stand. I stopped joking and stepped between her and the driver. Pick up your money, I told the driver. He checked my clothes, then my face. You must be the nephew. I'm the person asking once. The driver pointed through the glass wall. A custom silver supercar sat across 2 ambulance spaces beside the hospital construction lane. Its front bumper carried 1 shallow scratch. He tapped the glass. That car costs more than your whole family. I could have buried him in repairs. A hospital orderly stopped pushing a supply cart. 2 nurses near the desk turned toward us. He turned sideways so the camera caught his watch and the supercar together. He bent close to Aunt Barrett. Take the cash, crawl if you need the last bill. I looked at the supercar again. The Day 5 million sat untouched in my daily burn account. A completed vehicle sale counted immediately. How much for the car? I asked. The driver blinked, then he laughed harder. You couldn't afford a wheel. I held up my phone. $1 million. Payment final. Transfer it now. The nurses stopped pretending not to listen. Both enforcers looked through the glass at the car. The driver stopped laughing when he saw the balance. He opened the ownership screen on his phone and shoved it toward me. My name is on the title, and I ordered every custom part, the driver bragged. $1 million, and it's yours. Confirm the sale. Aunt Barrett grabbed my sleeve. Aiden, he's baiting you. No. The driver signed with his thumb. He turned the live stream toward the ownership screen. 1 million paid. No refunds. The car belongs to him now. I looked directly into his camera. Keep filming. Payment cleared. The daily burn account dropped to 0. DA 5 complete. Then the driver snatched the confirmation and raised it toward the enforcers. See? He shouted. The poor kid paid me for the privilege of losing. I held out my hand. He tossed me the key. I passed it to Brennan Oakes. Brennan looked through the glass at the construction roller parked beside the supercar. Compression route is clear, Brennan reported. The driver stopped laughing. I nodded toward the roller. Flatten my car. He stared at me. You're what? The hospital construction foreman had watched every bill hit the floor. He stepped away from his crew and handed Brennan the roller key. The lane is closed, the foreman announced. 1 pass won't delay us. Brennan walked outside. The driver lunged toward the doors. 3 hospital workers moved first. The orderly parked his supply cart across the entrance. Both nurses stepped beside it. The driver shoved at the cart. Move! The orderly pointed at Aunt Barrett. You wanted an audience. Keep watching. The driver waved his enforcers forward. Brennan had already climbed into the roller. The first enforcer reached for me. I caught his sleeve and drove him shoulder first into a waiting room chair. The second tried to clear the doorway. Uncle Barrett rolled his wheelchair into the man's path. The enforcer stumbled. Aunt Barrett pushed Uncle's chair back before anyone could touch him. Outside, the roller engine started. The driver's face emptied. He turned toward me and lowered his voice. I'll return the $1 million. I looked at the bills still scattered around Aunt Barrett's shoes. Too late. The roller climbed onto the supercar's hood, metal folded under the front drum. The enforcer kept streaming. The comments changed faster than the car's shape. Viewers stopped praising the driver and started replaying the moment he confirmed the sale. He grabbed for the phone. The enforcer pulled it away and kept streaming as the comments exploded. The driver dropped to both knees. Stop it, he screamed. Please, I'll pay anything. Brennan continued straight. The roof collapsed. Glass burst inward. Under the rear drum, the custom car became a silver sheet beneath construction dust. Brennan parked the roller on the other side and returned with the bent key. He placed it in my palm. Vehicle profile reduced. I tossed the key at the driver's knees. That was the promise I had made when poverty still owned us. Aunt Barrett stayed standing. She bent once, picked up a single bill, and pressed it into the driver's hand. "You drop this," Aunt Barrett told him. Then she returned to Uncle's wheelchair without touching the rest. Uncle Barrett looked through the glass at the crushed car. One laugh escaped him before his leg reminded him to stop. The driver snatched up his phone, his sleeve pulled back. A black ring mark circled his wrist. I had seen that shape in Northstar's lobby. It matched the rings at Crescent Ridge Estates and Vault 9. The driver barked into the phone. "Move the girl, Barrett is here." He saw my face and ended the call. Aunt Barrett's face changed. "Olivia was coming here after her nursing shift." Olivia Barrett was my adult cousin. She had texted Aunt Barrett 20 minutes earlier and promised to bring Uncle clean clothes. I called her. No answer. I called again. Her phone connected for half a second. I heard a car door slam, then the line died. A black ring icon appeared on my screen. Then, a message followed. Northstar Tower. Tomorrow. Bring the 18%. Another line appeared beneath it. Olivia moves every 15 minutes. The driver smiled from the floor. "Now you understand the price." I opened the burn ledger. The casino win had earned 100 impact points. A navigation option appeared under Olivia's last signal. 5 impact points per minute. 15-minute trace window. I spent 75 points. A red dot appeared near Ridgeport's waterfront and started moving. 25 impact points remained. Brennan looked at the driver's 2 enforcers. Hospital containment? The nurses had already surrounded them with workers and security carts. "Leave them the waiting room," I answered. "We're getting Olivia." The red dot stopped at a private club near the waterfront. Brennan drove. I watched the dot pulse against the timer. 14 minutes. 10. At 7 minutes, the dot moved toward the rear exit. I called the club's public number. A bartender answered in a whisper. I said Olivia's name. "They locked the staff in," the bartender whispered. "They haven't paid us for 3 weeks," a man shouted in the background. The line cut. Good. Their unpaid staff were already looking for a reason to turn. We reached the club with 4 minutes left. The front doors were chained from inside. A black ring symbol covered the glass. Brennan checked the hinges. "I can remove the door. Give me 10 seconds. I pressed my $20 million casino balance against the glass. The club foreman dragged Olivia into view on a tablet behind the bar. Her nursing scrubs were torn at one sleeve. Her chin stayed up. "Send the security chief away," the foreman ordered. "Tomorrow's transfer can happen tonight." I pointed at the chain. "Open the door." He grinned. "Every locked door in this place costs money." "Fine, 50,000 for that chain. Final sale." The foreman accepted before asking why. "Chain ownership, transfer red." I looked at the bartender. "Take my property off the door." The foreman waved a thick envelope at the staff. "Touch that lock and you're finished." The bartender stared at the envelope. "You already owe us." He dropped it into an ice bucket and pulled my chain free. A server opened the side exit. 2 kitchen workers rolled a steel service cart across the bar opening and trapped the foreman behind his own counter. The anniversary patron and another guest lifted the heavy chain. They carried it past the foreman's face while a third patron streamed the sale receipt. Before taking it outside, they looped the chain through the brass footrail of his bar. The foreman pulled once and trapped himself tighter behind his own counter. The patrons carried the free end out the front door while he shouted at people who had stopped listening. Then the bartender turned the payroll screen toward me. 12 unpaid names filled it. I sent $10,000 to every worker. 12 phones chimed. The payments rewarded a mutiny already moving. At the sound booth, the operator killed the music and flooded the room with light. Kitchen workers blocked the rear hall. Patrons closed the stairs. The foreman grabbed one guest by the collar. The anniversary patron smashed the melting ice bucket against his face. "You ruined my anniversary." Petty motivation. Excellent timing. The kidnappers lost the building before I crossed the threshold. The lead kidnapper rushed from the back room with a knife. He rushed straight at Brennan. I stepped around Brennan and drove the open door into the kidnapper's wrist. The knife hit the floor. Brennan caught the second man and folded him across the bar. A third kidnapper tried the rear exit. The kitchen workers shoved the service cart forward and pinned him against the wall. I ran into the back room. Olivia sat tied to a chair in blue nursing scrubs. Tape covered her mouth, but her eyes stayed sharp. She kicked the chair backward as the last kidnapper reached for her. His hand missed her hair. I caught his wrist, turned it, and drove him face first onto the table. Olivia kicked him once behind the knee. "Family contribution." I cut her hands free and pulled the tape away. Olivia sucked in one breath. They kept saying your shares were due tomorrow. The lead kidnapper staggered into the doorway. His sleeve had torn open. The black ring mark circled his wrist too. He pointed at me with his uninjured hand. Reddick money rented this floor. Tomorrow, garage level. Bring the tablet back signed. I crossed the room and put him down with one punch. The rescue was finished before the sirens reached the waterfront. Captain Wesley Driscoll entered after Olivia was standing beside me. He led Ridgeport special threats, and the black ring marks got his attention faster than the injured kidnappers. Wesley kicked the fallen knife away and looked at the paid staff blocking every exit. You turned the club before my unit arrived, Wesley observed. They were underpaid, I answered. Wesley looked at the black rings. These people keep appearing around incidents that should be unrelated. So far, they've been very related to me. Wesley met my eyes. Then stop giving them private rooms. Olivia stepped beside me. Captain, they took me in public. Wesley's expression tightened. Fair correction. Wesley's team cuffed the men I had already beaten and the workers had already trapped. The bartender handed Wesley the chain from the front doors. Add unlawful imprisonment to whatever those rings mean. Wesley bagged the chain and looked at me. Next time, call before you buy the building's loyalty. I corrected him. I bought their overdue wages. Wesley glanced at the 12 workers standing behind me. Same result. My phone vibrated again. Trey Reddick appeared on a live video from Northstar Tower's garage. He held a share transfer tablet in one hand. Behind him, another screen showed Uncle Barrett's hospital room. A black ring man stood outside the door. Trey smiled into the camera. Tomorrow night, sign over the 18% and your family keeps breathing. Olivia heard every word. She reached for my arm. Don't sign. Looked at Trey's tablet. He wants a signature, I told her. I'll give him one. The first day 6 bonus hit a loading worker's phone while Dominic occupied every Northstar screen. Send it back, Dominic ordered. The worker turned the $5,000 alert toward the camera. Come get it. 183 more phones chimed behind him. Then, Dominic hit the freeze control. 16 night shift names turned red, and my daily burn account stopped at $80,000. He scheduled the board session for 11:40 and put the remaining money beside a live feed of Uncle Barrett's hospital door. At 11:36, Trey Reddick waited in Northstar Tower's garage with a transfer tablet. A black ring man stood outside Uncle's room on the screen behind him. 24 minutes remained. Trey smiled and stood in the middle of the lane. His suit looked expensive, his eyes looked sleepless. The $16 million gap from his 2 empty estates was still public. He tilted the hospital feed toward me. The black ring man lifted one gloved hand beside Uncle Barrett's door. Trey held out the tablet. Sign over the 18%. My father ends the hospital watch. I looked at the feed. You kidnapped Olivia, failed, and came back with another threat. Trey's jaw tightened. I came back with pressure. You came back without a jacket payment plan. One garage enforcer laughed before remembering who paid him. Trey heard it and tightened both hands around the tablet. Brennan Oakes stood half a step behind me. 4 garage enforcers spread between the pillars. Elena Parkhurst, my operations assistant, was already upstairs with the night workers. Calvin Pembroke had gone to the boardroom. Trey glanced behind me, counted only Brennan, and smiled. He kept making that mistake. I took the tablet. Trey's smile widened. Finally. I looked at Uncle Barrett's live feed. The black ring man touched the hospital door once. Who ordered the driver? I asked. Trey shrugged. Dominic wanted your family scared. And Olivia? Trey leaned closer and spoke slowly, making sure the tablet caught every word. The driver failed, so my father rented the waterfront club through his black ring contacts. Your cousin was supposed to stay there until you became reasonable. The tablet recorded audio while the signature box waited. Trey tapped it. Now sign. I kept him talking. The casino too? Trey's mouth tightened. Vault 9 was their idea. Dominic only needed them to confirm what account you were using. That answered enough. I wrote 6 words across the signature field. Thank you for confessing, Trey. The tablet flashed green. Signature captured. Trey grabbed it and turned toward his men. He folded. He called Dominic on speakerphone. The shares are signed. Dominic's voice came through cold. Bring the tablet upstairs. Trey looked at the hospital feed. Stand down at the room. The black ring man stepped away from Uncle's door. Then the transfer screen finished checking my signature. Transfer. Rejected. Invalid signature. My message filled the screen again. Trey read it twice. His smile did not survive the second reading. I took the tablet back. You wanted my signature. I wanted your mouth. Trey pointed at the garage enforcers. Break his hand. I moved before they did. The first man watched Brennan instead of me. I drove the tablet edge into his wrist and sent his weapon under a parked car. Brennan caught the second man's punch, turned him, and put him face first across the hood. The hospital feed stayed live on the fallen tablet. The black ring man waited beside Uncle's door for Trey's next order. I kicked the tablet toward Trey. Tell him to leave. Trey looked at his men dropping around him. Stand down at harbor line. On screen, the black ring man walked away. Now the garage could get honest. The third rushed from my blind side. Trey shouted too early. I ducked. The enforcer's fist hit a concrete pillar. He folded around his own hand. The fourth man grabbed Brennan from behind. Brennan stepped backward once and crushed him against the vehicle door. Trey ran for the private elevator. I caught his jacket before the doors closed. He slipped out of it and stumbled inside wearing only his shirt. Trey slapped the upper floor button. Dad! The doors closed between us. Brennan looked at the abandoned jacket in my hand. Recovered enemy fabric. I dropped it on the concrete. He can keep the debt. The public elevators had been disabled, so we took the emergency stairs. My timer showed 17 minutes. Worker phones chimed on every floor as we climbed. The restored bonuses had reached people Dominic still ordered around for free. At the boardroom level, 2 guards blocked the doors. One checked his phone, saw the $5,000 payment, and moved aside. The other guard touched his own bonus alert. My wife got hers too. Neither guard asked Dominic for permission. The boardroom doors opened on 6 allies Dominic had paid to sit beside him. Each man wore a silver Founder Circle pin. Every pin was identical. The first ally tapped his pin when I entered. Founder Circle controls the succession vote. You're already finished. A second ally displayed the same pin and smiled at the first. Neither man had compared them before tonight. Dominic had seated 6 egos beside 6 copies of one lie. Dominic stood behind the chairman's chair. He was Northstar's president, Trey's father, and the man who had spent 6 days treating workers and relatives like pressure points. Trey stood beside him without his jacket. Dominic looked at his son once. Where's the transfer? Trey held up the rejected screen. He tricked me. Dominic's face hardened. You had one job. Trey lowered the tablet. He made me talk. Dominic looked past him. Then you were useful once. Trey reached for his father's sleeve. Dominic moved out of reach. The 6 allies tried not to look at Trey. Their matching pins made that difficult. Gwen Whitmore sat alone on the opposite side of the table. Northstar's CEO and largest shareholder had one empty chair beside her. Dominic pointed at me. You entered without standing. Your shares are under transfer. I tossed Trey's tablet onto the table. The rejection screen faced the room. Your son signed a confession instead, I told him. Dominic left the tablet untouched. The 6 allies were already staring at their matching pins. Dominic turned toward the 6 allies. Remove Barrett. Nobody stood. I walked to the table and tapped the nearest Founder Circle pin. Nice pin, I told the first ally. What did he promise you? The man covered it with his hand. Succession authority. A second ally looked over. That pin's mine. The third man pulled his pin free and checked the back. All 6 carried the same number. The fourth ally opened a message from Dominic and read it aloud. Only Founder Circle member authorized to replace the president. The 5th man held up an identical message. The 6th stopped smiling. He had already promised supporters a chair. Dominic had sold 5 more times. 1 of 1 had become 6 of 6. Dominic's coalition started comparing lies in real time. I looked at Dominic. Name your successor. He gripped the chairman's chair. This meeting's about your theft. I tapped the pin again. Name one. The first ally leaned forward. You promised me the chair after Barrett's removal. The second ally snapped. He promised me the same thing. Third man held up his pin. You called this exclusive. Dominic could have chosen one successor and kept lying. Instead, he laughed at all 6. Those pins cost $12 each, Dominic told them. You were temporary money. I needed votes, not opinions. The first ally ripped off his pin and walked straight to Dominic. Temporary money? He asked. Where the receipt? He pinned the silver badge to Dominic's lapel. The second ally added his. Then, the third. All 6 canceled their proxies and covered Dominic's jacket with the fake exclusive pins he had sold them. One pin tore Dominic's lapel. The first ally used another fake badge to pin the ripped flap back in place. Workers outside the glass counted the 6 silver lies aloud. Dominic slapped at their hands. The 6th ally grabbed the chairman's chair instead. 2 men rolled it away while Dominic still gripped the back. His shoes slid across the floor before he finally let go. Trey reached for one fallen pin. The first ally slapped his hand away from the fake prize. Dominic had bought a wall. Then he insulted every brick. Expensive mistake. Gwen caught the rolling chairman's chair and parked it beside mine. Sit, Aiden, Gwen ordered. The room finally reflects the company. She placed Northstar's operations key between us instead of handing it to Dominic. You paid the people keeping this place alive, Gwen told me. I can work with that. Outside the glass, workers lifted their phones and recorded the chair beside mine. Dominic saw them gathering and slammed his palm onto the table. Security, he shouted. Remove Barrett and every employee supporting him. The two guards from the hall entered. They stopped beside Brennan. Dominic pointed at the doors. That was an order. One guard lifted his phone. You withheld our bonuses for 6 months. The second guard stepped behind Brennan. Barrett paid them this morning. Elena entered with the night workers behind her. Bonus alerts still glowed on their phones. A civic arts volunteer squeezed in behind them carrying Northstar's promised medical charity match on a live tablet. We close at midnight, the volunteer warned. She tapped the transfer. Every route turned red except the escrowed civic arts channel. Dominic pointed at the nearest guard. Take that tablet. The guard picked it up, walked past Dominic, and placed it in Elena's hands. Keep this one alive, Elena ordered. A payroll clerk held up the cancellation notice Dominic had sent that morning. You called our bonuses waste. A loading supervisor raised his payment screen. Barrett called them overdue. Dominic looked at the employees who had once lowered their eyes around him. Back to work, he demanded. Nobody moved. He repeated the order louder. The workers stepped closer to Elena instead. Dominic pointed at the payroll clerk. Reverse every bonus. The clerk closed the cancellation screen. The money settled hours ago. Dominic snapped, then recover it from their checks. The clerk removed Dominic's access tab from her screen and joined the workers. Try asking them. Nobody offered him a cent. Gwen called the vote after the room had already abandoned Dominic. The board removed him from operational control in 1 sentence. His nameplate went blank, and his badge flashed red once. Trey edged behind his father. Fix this. Dominic shoved him away. You're the reason it broke. Trey looked around for another side. Kenzie was gone. The board had moved. Even the guards faced the other direction. My timer reached 1 minute. Pain locked my right index finger, then my middle finger stiffened. The 80,000 remained. Dominic noticed my hand and smiled again. He had lost the room, so he reached for my still-running timer. Dominic pulled out a second phone. A black ring icon glowed on its screen. He spoke toward it. You wanted Barrett's account. Take tomorrow's route. Get me out. A service elevator opened behind him despite the dead badge. The boardroom doors locked at the same moment. Dominic stepped backward into the elevator. I moved after him. My right hand locked at the wrist. The burn ledger showed 59 seconds. Chasing Dominic would cost the year before I reached the doors. He saw the choice and smiled as the elevator closed. I turned away from him. Elena held up the operations tablet with her left hand. Her right hand trembled against the edge. The retention roster's still open, Elena told me. 16 night workers, $5,000 each, exactly 80,000. I used my left thumb and selected every name. The confirmation button blurred as my arm started locking. 40 seconds remained when the first payment cleared. Phones chimed behind Elena. At 30 seconds, 8 workers had their bonuses. At 20, 14 names were green. My shoulder tightened. 10 seconds. The final 2 payments cleared together. The daily burn account hit 0. DAWSI 6 complete. My hand released. The 16 night workers stepped behind me while Dominic's empty chair faced the room. One worker removed Dominic's portrait from the video wall and replaced it with the live bonus ledger. The applause followed the bonus ledger. The vote received silence. Gwen looked at the dead elevator panel. He had outside access. The black ring icon spread across every pending Day 7 route. On the volunteer's tablet, the escrowed civic arts channel stayed green. Elena steadied it with both hands. The concert starts tomorrow. We move the million through this before they close it. A medical charity stage sounded safer than a casino, a hospital parking lot, or Dominic's boardroom. That assumption was about to hurt. The next million was meant for a charity stage. Before that night ended, I would be begging the system to take every dollar back. At 8 on Day 7, the million landed on the civic arts tablet Elena had carried out of Dominic's boardroom. Every ordinary route turned red. The escrowed medical charity channel stayed green. Elena Parkhurst, my operations assistant, held it open while we entered Civic Arts Arena. Her right hand shook against the screen. She caught me looking and switched hands. The channel closes when the first performance starts, Elena warned. After that, the money stays trapped. I checked the $1 million balance. What exactly am I buying? Elena turned the tablet toward the families waiting beside the charity desks. Each desk had a camera, a microphone, and a stack of hospital bills. One father was being asked to explain his debt while his daughter hid behind his chair. Elena lowered the microphone before he answered. Then she opened a single payment page. No Kneeling Fund. 1 verified hospital bill, Elena explained. 1 automatic payment, no camera story, no begging. The father scanned his bill. His balance disappeared from the screen. He stood so quickly the chair rolled backward. That was enough for me. I entered $1 million and pressed confirm. Every charity desk chimed together. The fund total filled the arena screens before the opening lights came up. Families started scanning bills. Volunteers stopped lifting microphones and started handing out payment codes. The daily burn account hit 0. Day ASEV incomplete. The father from the first desk checked his daughter's bill again. Then he turned the charity camera toward the cleared balance instead of his face. "Show that," he told the volunteer. "They already got enough of us." 3 more families pushed their microphones aside and held up green payment screens. The crowd saw bills disappear without a single sob story attached. A second donation line appeared beside the fund total. The concert headliner's promised match still showed $0. The arena noticed, so did the headliner. Elena watched the first row of balances clear. Her shoulders loosened for 1 second. "You built this after Harborline Medical Center," I told her. Elena looked at me. "I named it after your aunt staying on her feet." The main stage microphone came alive. Livia Calderon stood beneath the arena lights. She was the national singer hosting the charity concert, and the crowd listened before she finished raising one hand. Livia pointed toward the payment total. $1 million just entered the No Kneeling Fund. Every cent is live tonight. The audience rose. Phones turned from the stage toward me and Elena. The man beside Livia stopped smiling. Cassian Wardell was the concert headliner. His face covered half the banners hanging from the upper seats, and he treated every camera like rented property. He leaned toward Livia's microphone. I was about to announce my own contribution. Livia glanced at his empty hands. "Your contribution arrived without you?" The audience laughed. Elena's tablet slipped half an inch in her shaking hand. "I caught the bottom before it fell." "You need air," I told her. Elena pulled the tablet back against her chest. "I need Cassian away from the fund." Then she faced the stage before I could argue. Cassian smiled through it and wrapped one arm around Livia's waist. He pointed at his pending match on the screen. "1 kiss and I clear it during my encore." Livia looked at the million already moving through the fund. "You're charging interest on money you haven't sent." "1 kiss," Cassian repeated. "Then I'll mention your fund during my encore." Livia removed his arm. "My charity already raised money. Your mouth missed the deadline." That laugh hit harder. Cassian looked toward the $1 million total, then toward me. His smile changed shape. He still had fame, lights, and thousands of fans. I had stolen 30 seconds of attention with one transfer. Cassian tightened his grip on the microphone until his knuckles whitened. A phone pushed between me and Elena. Kenzie Wallace had returned with a gossip stream and a new version of reality. My ex aimed the camera at the fund total. "Aiden Barrett is buying applause again. First workers, then cars, now sick families." Elena stepped in front of the lens. "You're blocking the payment code." Kenzie moved the phone around her. "People deserve to know where his money comes from." Looked into Kenzie's stream. "Yesterday you said it came from crime. Today you followed it into a charity." The comments started moving faster. The father from the first desk stepped into Kenzie's frame. His daughter held the cleared bill beside him. "He paid before asking my name," the father told her camera. "What did you do?" Kenzie swung the phone away from him. The comments followed anyway. Kenzie lifted her chin. "Money can buy attention, it can't buy talent." Cassian heard that from the stage. He pointed at me. Finally, the ex said something useful. The crowd turned. Cassian walked to the edge of the stage and held out a second microphone. "You bought my audience for a minute," he announced. "Come earn them." I looked at the microphone. "I don't sing." Cassian spread both arms. "Then apologize for hijacking my concert and sit down." Livia took the second microphone from him before I answered. She looked at Cassian, then at me. "He priced my kiss at 1 donation. You paid $1 million, beat him, and I'll pay that kiss myself." The arena got louder. Elena caught the front of my jacket and pulled me half a step closer. Her shaking hand stayed on my collar. "He already has an encore partner," Elena told Livia. Then she looked at Cassian. "Find your own." Kenzie's camera jerked toward us. Her comments started asking whether Elena was my girlfriend. "She's his assistant," Kenzie corrected them. Livia looked at Elena's hand on my collar. "That assistant has excellent contract terms." The crowd laughed again. I looked at Elena's hand. "Now I'm winning for selfish reasons." Cassian grabbed the challenge before the room could keep talking about us. His jaw tightened. 1 performance each. The crowd chooses 1 encore. He pointed at Livia, then at the No Kneeling Fund screen. "If I win, Barrett admits his money bought this room. You join my tour, Livia, and his little fund stops using my concert." Livia's eyes went cold. "You don't own my tour." Cassian ignored her and looked at me. "If he wins, I leave both alone." He held the microphone out, then glanced at Kenzie's camera. My phone vibrated. "ECHOKE available, 1 performance." A single key appeared. The system waited for me to be reckless. I looked at Cassian. "Put the wager on the arena screens." Cassian laughed. "You accept?" I smiled. "I accept your exit." Livia raised the microphone. "The crowd chooses the encore. The loser leaves the tour and the fund alone." Cassian snapped at the stage crew. "No band for Barrett, no rehearsal. Give him the floor mic." The floor microphone had been used for audience questions. Its stand leaned, and one side of the grill was dented. Brennan reached for it from the aisle. Potential impact tool. I took it first. Tonight it has one job. Cassian pointed at his full band. Talent shouldn't need preparation. He had just given himself 12 musicians, programmed lights, and a raised platform. The hypocrisy fit him beautifully. The rule appeared above the stage. Kenzie turned her stream toward Cassian. This is about to be embarrassing! She was right about one person. Cassian performed first. He had a full band, a wall of lights, and fans who knew every movement before he made it. His voice filled the arena. The front rows screamed his name, and the upper seats waved his banners in time. He ended on a raised platform with white sparks falling behind him. The applause shook the stage. Cassian walked past me and pushed the microphone into my chest. "Money bought you a funeral," he whispered. Elena caught my sleeve before I stepped forward. Her fingers were cold. "You can walk away," Elena told me. Her breathing sounded shallow beneath the crowd. I touched the echo key button. Pain clamped my throat. My chest tightened. Heat drove through my jaw and into both ears. The system had installed the skill with the bedside manner of a car crash. Ekcho, K-E-Y, active. I stepped beneath the lights. Cassian's fans kept chanting his name. Then I sang the first note. The chant broke. Cassian reached across the sound console and hit the mute switch. The red light on my microphone died. Livia saw his hand. So did the front rows. My second note still reached the top seats. The echo key carried it through the dead microphone and across the arena. The stage technician stepped away from Cassian and turned the console screen toward the crowd. Mute glowed beneath his fingerprint. Cassian had tried to kill the sound and proved the voice was mine. The note reached the top seats without cracking. The second came easier. By the third, people who had been walking toward the exits had stopped in the aisles. The stage stayed bare behind me. I had one microphone and a system key burning through my throat. The arena listened anyway. Livia lowered her own microphone. Cassian stopped smiling. I finished before the echo key could take another piece out of my lungs. Silence held for one beat, then the crowd demanded the song again. The encore vote opened across every arena screen. Cassian's name jumped first. Mine passed it before the second row finished voting. His bar stopped below half. Mine kept moving. A fan in the front row pulled down a Cassian banner and held up the no kneeling fund code instead. Another fan copied her. The upper seats followed until his face disappeared beneath payment screens. A loose Cassian banner fell across the aisle. Brennan stepped over it, pivoted once, and swept it behind the security rail with his foot. Livia stared at him. "Was that a dance?" "Crowd control footwork," Brennan answered. The clip hit Kenzie's stream before Cassian's vote finished collapsing. Cassian stared at thousands of people removing him from his own concert. Behind him, his band stopped playing the victory music. The drummer set down both sticks. The guitarist unplugged before Cassian could order another song. Even his own stage had changed sides. He was cooked under professional lighting. Livia walked to my side and raised my hand. "The crowd chose its encore," Livia announced. "Cassian leaves my tour and the fund alone." Kenzie's livestream comments turned on her next. Viewers replayed her calling me talentless. Others posted the showroom clip with the missing approval restored. Her follower count began dropping on screen. Kenzie switched the camera back to herself. "I always said Aiden had potential." I looked at the live replay above her head. "Your stream remembers better than you do." Kenzie reached for my arm. Elena moved first. She stepped beside me and took my hand in front of the stage cameras. Kenzie stopped. "You're his employee," Kenzie snapped. Elena kept her hand in mine. "Then stop losing to payroll." Livia laughed into the microphone. The crowd heard every word. Kenzie looked at the comments, saw no rescue, and lowered her phone. Cassian pointed at her from the stage. "You brought him into this." Kenzie snapped the camera back toward him. "You challenged a man after his account cleared $1 million. That was your idea." Cassian told her to cut the stream. Kenzie kept filming because the argument was the only attention either of them still owned. She walked toward the exit while viewers kept asking why she had followed a man she called criminal. Cassian shouted after her. She never turned around. That was the last time her camera controlled a room I stood in. Cassian grabbed the stage microphone. "The vote was bought," he shouted. "Half these people came for me." A stage worker removed his name from the encore screen. Cassian shoved the worker aside and pointed at Livia. "You embarrassed me for him." Livia stepped away. "You did all the work." Cassian looked at me holding Elena's hand. His band had unplugged. Livia had stepped away. Elena still held my hand. Cassian kept talking after his status ran out. Cassian charged from behind as I turned toward Elena. Both hands hit my back. The stage edge vanished beneath my heel. Elena saw me falling toward the metal stairs. She let go of my hand, jumped, and caught my jacket. Her weight pulled me sideways. I hit the lower platform on one shoulder. Elena struck the rail and dropped beside me. Then she hit the floor for me. The arena sound disappeared inside my head. I rolled toward her and caught her before her face reached the concrete. Her eyes were open, her breathing was barely there. Cassian backed away from the edge. I climbed onto the lower platform, caught his wrist, and dragged him down to his knees beside the stage. "Stay there," I told him. He stayed. Fans who had removed his banners blocked the nearest exit. Livia took the microphone and called for the medical team. Security reached Cassian after I had already put him on the floor. I pressed 2 fingers against Elena's neck. My phone turned black in my hand. Emergency scan complete. Degenerative heart failure. Stabilization window, 10 days. Permanent cure. Second heart. Coast, 10,000 impact points. My balance showed 25. A second line appeared. Daily burn funds ineligible. I put both hands around the phone. "Take the million back," I told the burn ledger. "Take all 7. The answer stayed on screen. "Cure requires earned impact." Elena's fingers moved against my sleeve. Her voice came out thin. "The fund? It's live," I answered. She closed her eyes again. I looked at the 10,000 point price. I answered the screen. "Then I'll earn it." The burn ledger opened one valid purchase for day 8. Armored medical transport. 10-day stabilization. Exact cost, $1 million. Beside the route, a black ring icon blinked once. I had 25 points. Elena needed 10,000. At 8 o'clock, I could buy her 10 days. Someone had already found the road. Elena's stabilization invoice hit my phone at 8 on day 8. At 8, the burn ledger dropped in $1 million. The invoice swallowed it 30 seconds later. That purchase covered 1 armored medical transport and Elena's 10-day stabilization package. The transport sealed around her treatment bed. Steel panels locked over the windows. The heart monitor stopped stuttering and began a steady count. Stabilization, active, 10 days. The daily burn account hit 0. Day EIGHT complete. Elena opened her eyes beneath the monitor light. "The fund?" she asked. "Still paying bills," I told her. Livia refused the escort car and climbed into the rear jump seat, still wearing the silver stage coat from the concert. Elena opened one eye again. "Aiden, stop staring at her coat." "I was checking whether it was armored." Livia smiled. "It isn't. His excuse is." The route map turned red before Elena could answer. A steel tendril punched through the side panel and tore Livia's silver sleeve. Livia looked at the missing fabric. "Now I'm charging them." She stayed beside Elena's bed. Our completed payment had exposed the transport before it cleared the hospital lane. Every black ring icon on the map moved toward us. The next 4 traffic lights changed together. Cross streets opened while our lane stayed red. The transport navigation kept rerouting us toward the same blocked intersection. Someone had turned the city map into a funnel. Brennan killed the navigation and followed the ambulance lane manually. The map kept drawing a red circle around our moving vehicle anyway. Captain Wesley Driscoll saw the same pattern. He led Ridgeport's special threats and had arrived after I rescued Olivia. For 2 days he had treated those rings like an organized threat. Wesley placed 2 unit vehicles behind the medical transport. "You bought 10 days, Wesley told me through the convoy channel. "Keep the patient moving. My people handle the road." Brennan Oakes drove from the front seat. He checked the mirrors and locked the cabin doors. "The road appears offended," Brennan observed. A tow truck blocked the next intersection. Its hazard lights pulsed in the same rhythm as a black pursuit car idling beside it. A woman stepped from the driver's side. The black ring driver wore a metal bracelet around her forearm. She flexed her wrist. Steel tendrils unfolded from the car's doors and side panels. Its front axle and engine stood exposed. Across the cross street, the tow truck winch tightened. Steel tendrils spread across the road. The woman spoke through every convoy speaker. "Aiden Barrett leaves the transport. The patient keeps breathing." Wesley answered first. "Clear the road." The black ring driver smiled at his vehicles. "You brought government equipment to an adaptive weapon." The tendrils shot forward. 2 wrapped around the transport's front axle. Another punched through the steering housing and turned our wheels toward the concrete divider. Brennan fought the wheel. It pulled against both hands. The treatment bed slid 6 inches before its locks caught. A 4th tendril peeled 1 armor panel away from the rear door. Cold air filled the cabin. Elena's monitor jumped. She opened her eyes and saw the road moving sideways through the gap. "Aiden," Elena breathed. I tightened my grip. "Elena, I see it." I locked both hands around the bed frame while Brennan forced the transport away from the divider. Outside, Wesley's unit fired 2 stun lines at the driver's bracelet. 1 line hit. The bracelet flashed once. Instead, the second line curved away and wrapped around Wesley's own vehicle mirror. The black ring driver laughed. "It learned." Her car dragged harder. The transport's front tire climbed the divider. My phone turned black. Emergency ITM released. Compliance boot. A bright yellow parking boot appeared in the storage rack beside Elena's bed. Brennan looked at it once. "Wheel denial equipment." "It's a parking boot," I told him. Brennan corrected me. Portable wheel denial equipment. She saw the yellow metal through the rear camera and laughed louder. That's your answer? The woman called. I expected Merrick's successor to bring a weapon. I grabbed the boot. You parked badly. Brennan cut the transport hard toward her car. The tendrils forced us back, but the turn brought the exposed front wheel within reach. I opened the side hatch. Wesley shouted through the channel. Barrett, stay inside. I stepped onto the running board anyway. A steel tendril snapped toward my chest. I ducked beneath it, jumped to the road, and slid beside her front wheel. My compliance boot opened by itself. The black ring driver raised her bracelet. The tendril above me changed direction. I clamped the yellow boot around her exposed axle. It locked with one cheerful beep. For half a second nothing happened. The black ring driver looked down at me. Cute, her pursuit car answered. ILLE claim, detected. Registered operator, Tamsin Rowe. Claim status, thief. The same message filled our transport screen and both Ridgeport's special threats dashboards. Tamsin's own bracelet had introduced her to every witness as the criminal. Returning connected. Systems to registered source. Every hinged frame on the exposed car released at once. The remaining panels fired outward and clattered across the road. Tamsin's bracelet flashed red. The tendrils holding our transport snapped backward. 3 wrapped around her arms. 1 caught her waist. Another pulled both ankles together. Her own machine lifted her sideways and pinned her against the car. The transport dropped off the divider and regained steering. Brennan accelerated past her. The abandoned tow truck beeped behind us. Its winch launched from the rear bed and hooked Tamsin's car under the bumper. Tamsin turned her head toward the truck. No! The tow motor engaged. Her exposed pursuit car rolled backward with Tamsin tied across the side. The truck dragged her through the intersection while its hazard lights blinked politely. Drivers trapped behind the convoy lifted their phones. One delivery driver leaned on his horn as Tamsin passed sideways, tied to her own car. She had arrived like an assassin and left the intersection as an impound dispute. Wesley's unit stopped firing. One of his officers lowered a launcher and watched the tow truck pass. I picked up the compliance boot from the road after it released. Brennan opened the transport door long enough for me to climb inside. Target immobilized, Brennan reported. Behind us, Tamsin tore one arm free and ripped the winch cable apart. Her car spun into the median. She hit the road, rolled once, and stood with blood at the corner of her mouth. The black bracelet rebuilt itself around her forearm. Tamsin looked at the yellow boot in my hand. That thing called me a thief. It has standards, I answered. Her smile disappeared. The transport reached the next block. Then a man dropped from the overpass and landed in front of it. He wore a black ring bracelet wider than Tamsin's. Dark plates spread from the bracelet across his shoulders when he stood. Tamsin stopped advancing. The new killer looked at her torn car, then at the transport. Retrieval failed, he announced. Witness purge approved. Tamsin's face tightened. I'm still on the route. She snapped both hands forward. 4 steel tendrils shot from the wrecked car toward his back. His wider bracelet pulsed once. Every tendril stopped in the air and turned toward Tamsin. She cut them loose before they reached her throat. The new killer watched her sever her own weapon. Failed tools don't stay on the route. He struck her without looking. Tamsin flew across one lane and hit the side of the wrecked tow truck. The killer turned toward Elena's transport. Wesley moved his unit between them. Barrett, Wesley ordered, take the transport and go. Brennan drove. The killer lifted one hand. A pressure wave hit the rear armor and stopped the transport hard enough to crack the road beneath us. Elena's monitor jumped again. I handed the compliance boot to Brennan and stepped out. Wesley's team formed one line. 2 officers fired stun cables. Another launched a weighted net. Wesley charged behind both with a reinforced shield. All 3 attacks reached the killer together. His bracelet lit in 3 bands. The dark plates shifted. I watched the bands on his bracelet. 1 copied the current, 1 copied the net tension. The 3rd matched Wesley's shield angle. His bracelet caught the combination and sent every part back. The stun current ran backward through the cables and dropped both officers. The net tightened around Wesley's shield instead of the killer. Then, the killer drove one shoulder forward. Wesley and the shield crossed the road together. The killer had learned all of it. He walked toward Wesley while the captain tried to stand. Tamsin pulled herself against the tow truck and laughed once. It sounded bitter. He adapts to whatever hits him, she warned. Run before he learns you too. The killer raised his fist over Wesley. My phone vibrated. ABYSS, shield available. 1 impact, 60-second bind. A black disc formed across my forearm. The killer saw it and changed direction toward me. Wesley forced himself upright. Keep it, get Elena out. The killer stepped past him, then turned back when Wesley reached for his ankle. His fist came down toward Wesley's head. I threw the abyss shield. The disc crossed the lane and locked around Wesley's raised arm. The killer's fist struck it. Black light closed around his hand and held it there. ABYSS. Bind, 60 seconds. You unauthorized. Recipient. Tamsin stopped laughing. You're exposed now, Tamsin warned me. He'll adapt before the bind ends. I looked at the yellow boot. Then I'll stay rude and unpredictable. Wesley stared through the shield at me. You gave away your only defense. I can buy another shield, I told him. You only have one life. The killer pulled once. The bind held. 53 seconds remained. I took the compliance boot back from Brennan. The killer looked at it and sneered. You're attacking me with parking equipment. I raised the boot, worked on the first professional. I closed the distance. His armor had shifted toward the trapped fist. The plates left his ribs open. I drove the boot into that gap. The first hit folded him sideways. The bracelet adjusted. I struck his knee before the plates finished moving. He dropped to one knee. The third hit caught the bracelet itself. Metal cracked. A black segment broke free and landed near my shoe. 38 seconds remained. The killer swung with his free arm. I stepped inside it and drove the boot into his shoulder. Wesley twisted the shield, pulling the trapped fist across the killer's body. I swept his legs and put him on the road. He tried to rise. I hit the damaged bracelet again. The dark plates died. The killer stayed down. Wesley's officers saw the bracelet go dark and pushed themselves upright. One officer looked from his dead launcher to the yellow boot, then stepped out of my way. Tamsin stared at the boot, then at the shield around Wesley's arm. Her surviving tendril lowered. The killer's mouth pulled into a smile. A red light started inside the broken bracelet. Tamsin saw it and moved. Self-destruct, she shouted. Get the patient behind concrete. The transport could not clear the blast radius in time. Tamsin ripped the remaining tendrils from her wrecked car. Her bracelet flashed an order to stop. The metal tightened around her wrist and drove her to one knee. Tamsin tore the bracelet clasp open with her teeth, forced the tendrils forward, and drove them into the road around Elena's transport. A rough shell closed over the vehicle. Brennan dragged me behind the median. Wesley pulled his officers down beside us. The killer's bracelet flashed white. The explosion lifted the tow truck and tore windows from the block. Tamsin's steel shell bent inward. It held. When the smoke cleared, Elena's monitor still showed a heartbeat. The 10-day counter had lost 3 minutes. Nothing else. Tamsin knelt beside the transport with both hands burned red from the bracelet feedback. Her bracelet hung open from one wrist. Then the dead band snapped shut. Heat burned through her fresh wraps. Every convoy speaker barked the same order. E-rays failed Hunter. Tamsin tore the bracelet free and slammed it onto Wesley's hood. A thin black rank light jumped from the smoking band toward the broken segment in my hand. Tamsin crushed the light against the metal with her heel before it reached my wrist. That's how they replace us, she said. Null Circle. That was the first time I heard the organization's name. I picked up the broken segment from the road. It pulsed in the same rhythm as the smoking bracelet. Every bracelet hears the channel, Tamsin warned. Keep that peace and they hear you back. Elena's monitor lost another minute. Wesley raised his weapon toward Tamsin, checked the falling counter, and lowered it. Transport first, he ordered. I'm not returning, Tamsin said. She kicked the burning bracelet under the wrecked tow truck and ran between the damaged vehicles. Wesley stayed beside Elena's transport instead of chasing her. He checked Elena's monitor through the bent panel and looked at the abyss shield still locked around his arm. You saved my life, Wesley told me. I took the shield back. You were blocking a punch. Wesley glanced at the crater. Next time, block your own. The abyss shield released from his arm and folded into a black disc. I took it back. Its daily charge was gone. My phone rang before I answered. Gwen Whitmore's name filled the screen. Northstar's CEO had survived Dominic's boardroom. Now her voice sounded worse than it had beside his empty chair. Northstar Labs is locked from the inside, Gwen reported. Our research director blocked the launch floor. Palisade Beauty is unveiling our stolen formula tomorrow. Behind her, alarms cut through shouted orders. A purge warning flashed across the wall. The locked launch floor just destroyed our last clean shipment, Gwen continued. If their launch lands first, Northstar loses the product line. The burn ledger covered her screen with one offer. Save Northstar Labs. Deadline, 3 days. Sorry, Ward, 20,000 IMPACT points. Elena needed 10,000. I pressed accept. Gwen released one breath. What do you need? Every digital screen around their launch, I told her. At 8 o'clock tomorrow, I'm buying the audience. The mission clock started. Behind me, the armored transport carried Elena away with 10 days on the monitor. In my hand, the broken Null Circle bracelet pulsed once. The company crisis could buy her cure. Northstar's research director had locked the launch floor, and Palisade was going live across the plaza at 8 o'clock. Palisade Beauty stole Northstar's formula and scheduled its launch across the plaza from Northstar Labs. At 8 on day 9, every rented screen around Palisade went black. The burn ledger had just deposited $1 million. I spent every cent before the rival presenter finished her opening sentence. I bought 1 hour of billboards, transit screens, storefront displays, public ad walls, and Palisade's own press shuttle. The daily burn account hit 0. DAWN complete. Northstar workers strapped a giant gray jar to the shuttle roof. It circled Palisade's stage while its side screens displayed our 60-second countdown and launch code. The rival presenter kept talking as her own press vehicle advertised my product behind her. She ran toward the shuttle and grabbed its door. The lock recognized my 1-hour contract and kept her outside. The driver lowered his window. Media lease says Northstar until 9. He circled her stage again while her own press row filmed her chasing the vehicle. Every other screen showed one instruction: watch Northstar's live test before buying. Workers opened boxes from the upper balcony and released silver cards over the plaza. The cards carried the same code and spun through Palisade's camera shots like money rain with better targeting. People inside the rival event turned toward the windows. Then they crossed the plaza. Palisade had spent months buying attention. My 1-hour purchase drove it away in their own shuttle. Gwen Whitmore met me beside a folding test table while half her company watched the rival audience cross the plaza. You bought every screen they can see, Gwen observed. I pointed at Palisade's press shuttle circling its own stage. I bought the one they arrived in too. A foul smell escaped the sealed gray jar in my hand. Gwen looked at it. That's the useful part? The system seems confident. Dorian Redford stepped between me and the mixers. Northstar's research director wore a spotless white coat and spoke to lab workers like their hands belonged to him. A mixer operator reached for the sample. Dorian slapped her glove away. Touch it and clean out your locker, Dorian warned. The rival presenter crossed the plaza carrying a crystal bottle and a live camera. She shoved both toward Dorian. Let Northstar's research director smell the miracle he's defending. Dorian swatted the gray jar away from his coat. The lid held. The jar rolled across the table and painted a gray streak down his white sleeve. 3 reporters zoomed in. Dorian dragged the sleeve behind his back, but the press shuttle magnified the stain across its side screen. Both crowds laughed. Dorian grabbed the stage microphone. When this sludge burns the model, Gwen Whitmore leaves product control. I take the launch floor back. He dropped his badge beside Gwen's operations key. The rival presenter lifted her crystal bottle. Public wager accepted. Gwen removed one glove and placed an old burn mark beside the stain on Dorian's sleeve. Use mine, Gwen ordered. The rival presenter armed the 60-second clock herself. Dorian had placed his coat, badge, and authority beside the jar before anyone touched it. The Northstar workers stopped whispering. I looked at her hand. You don't have to prove this with skin. Gwen met my eyes. My staff already paid for Dominic's decisions. I'll pay for mine. She sat beneath the stage camera and placed her hand on the table. Elena's mobile unit tried to reroute toward Harborline Medical Center. Its route screen turned red. Northstar's shielded treatment bay stayed green, so 2 medical staff guided the unit through the protected side lane. Livia Calderon walked beside it with one hand on the rail. A medical worker waved the national singer clear. Livia stayed. Elena watched through the armored window. 9 days still glowed above her heartbeat. 5 event crew workers with identical black wristbands stacked equipment cases around the protected side lane. I noticed one band. Dorian's public wager was already live, so I caught Brennan's eye and kept the test moving. Livia looked at the gray jar and covered her nose. Cassian's cologne finally met competition. Elena's mouth moved in a weak smile. I stayed beside the treatment unit until Gwen called me back to the table. Dorian lifted the sealed jar. At least let the research director prepare the dose? Gwen reached for it. Dorian turned his shoulder between the jar and the camera. His thumb disappeared beneath the lid. When he placed it down, a thin blue smear marked the seal. I saw it. The countdown had already appeared on every billboard. Every billboard and camera watched the table. Dorian watched the cameras instead of Gwen's hand. I wanted to see what he had just added. My phone vibrated once. You, an authorized catalyst, detected. A pinprick of blue flashed on the gray stain across Dorian's glove, then vanished. I let Gwen open the jar. Dorian smiled. Gwen spread one line of gray paste across the burn mark. The smell cleared the first row. A reporter stepped backward and hit another camera. Across the plaza, the Palisade presenter laughed into her microphone. Northstar's miracle product is evacuating its own launch. The 60-second clock started. Palisade put the timer on its emergency screen too. The rival presenter invited her audience to count down Northstar's collapse. At 50 seconds, Dorian told a camera operator to cut the close-up. The operator looked at Gwen's hand and kept filming. At 40 seconds, the paste stayed gray. Dorian relaxed one shoulder. At 30, the rival crowd started chanting for failure. Livia stood beside Elena's unit and aimed her phone at Gwen's hand. Keep filming, Elena told her through the transport speaker. At 15 seconds, the blue smear beneath the jar lid began glowing. Dorian noticed first. His smile vanished. The gray paste turned silver across Gwen's skin. Light ran along the old burn mark. At 5 seconds, the mark faded. At 0, the back of Gwen's hand looked smooth beneath the launch lights. Then the sabotage dye made the entire treated area glow bright blue. The result was visible from across the plaza. Nobody needed a report. Gwen lifted her hand. The Northstar launch floor filled with orders. The pre-order wall filled so quickly the numbers stopped fitting one screen. Palisade's remaining audience crossed the plaza at a run. The rival presenter abandoned her empty stage and crossed the plaza carrying the crystal bottle. She pushed through the Northstar crowd and aimed her own camera at Gwen's hand. Lighting trick. Gwen wiped the silver paste away with a plain towel. The old burn mark stayed gone under the white lab lights. The presenter's camera streamed the result to Palisade's remaining viewers. Their pre-order counter started falling behind her. She lowered the crystal bottle and left before anyone asked for her test. Dorian had tried to poison the proof and installed stage lighting instead. Expensive mistake. The burn ledger updated. SAV Northstar Labs. Launch restored. Sabotage. Chain active. Reward pending. Dorian backed away from the table and pulled out his private phone. The mixer operator slapped it from his hand. "You don't get to shut us down now." His phone skidded beneath the stage. Dorian grabbed the nearest live connection, the launch console. He opened a hidden message window. Every billboard I had rented still mirrored that console. His outgoing message opened above the plaza before he noticed the wrong window. Dominic, sabotage, amplified it. Tell the auditor, the formula works. Move the treatment unit. Take Whitmore and Calderon. The lab workers read the message while Gwen's glowing hand still filled the main screen. Dorian looked up. Every exit already had a worker standing in front of it. "Move," he ordered. "I'm still your director." The mixer operator pointed at the gray and blue stains crawling down his white coat. "Then direct your own exit." Dorian reached for Gwen's operations key. I caught his wrist and folded his arm against the test table. 2 workers rolled Palisade's empty crystal bottle display crate across the plaza. The mixer crew put Dorian inside it with his stained coat still on. They rolled him past the live cameras and parked the crate beneath the giant gray jar on Palisade's stolen press shuttle. The rival presenter reached for the crate, saw her own logo behind Dorian's bars, and backed out of the camera frame. The shuttle driver honked and completed another lap with Dorian on display. Dorian gripped the bars. "Dominic will restore me." Gwen touched his badge to the console once. It flashed red inside the crate. "Dominic can't restore his own elevator," Gwen answered. The pre-order wall kept climbing while Dorian's message followed him across the plaza. The broken Null Circle bracelet segment vibrated inside my pocket. 5 ACTT nodes answered through the event network. 1 moved toward Elena's treatment bay. 4 closed around the loading lane. The warning gave me locations and almost no time. I handed the segment to Brennan. "Same channel Tamsin warned us about," I told him. "Find who answers." A distribution worker rolled an empty shrink-wrapped equipment pallet past us. Brennan tapped the plastic. "Mobile perimeter." I turned to Calvin Pembroke. "Copy Dominic's number and get off this floor." Calvin took the abandoned hall control badge from Dorian's dropped console. Brennan followed him and the wrapped pallet into the service corridor. Gwen watched both men leave. "What did you just start?" I watched the side lane. Dominic already started it. The launch lights died. 5 black ring bracelets lit inside the event crew. The guards wearing them pulled weapons from equipment cases and moved toward Elena's transport. I stepped between the nearest guard and the side lane. He swung the equipment case at my head. I caught the handle, pulled him forward, and drove him into the test table. My forearm pinned his wrist there. A second guard raised his weapon. I shifted toward him. He aimed past me at Elena's armored window. "Back up," the guard ordered. "The patient moves first." 2 more guards seized Livia beside the treatment unit. Gwen swung the operations key at one man's wrist. He caught her arm and pulled her against the transport. I moved 1 step closer. Every bracelet flashed together. The treatment unit's locks engaged around Elena. Her heartbeat filled the dark launch floor through the transport speaker. The nearest guard pressed his weapon against the armored window. The first guard struggled beneath my arm. I could break his wrist or keep Elena out of the line. I released him and stepped back. The 5 guards dragged Gwen and Livia into the side lane while the treatment unit rolled between them. Northstar workers started forward. I held up one hand. A rush would put Elena in the first line of fire. The loading doors closed behind the guards. Brennan and Calvin were already gone. I kept that fact to myself. 30 seconds later, every billboard switched again. Dominic Reddick appeared on the screens from Northstar's abandoned distribution hall. The ousted president stood beside Gwen and Livia. Both were restrained near Elena's mobile treatment unit. 5 guards formed a line behind them. Their black ring bracelets stayed visible. Dominic looked thinner without the chairman's chair. He sounded just as entitled. You took my company, Dominic announced. Now I take the people keeping yours alive. Gwen pulled against the restraint. You lost Northstar because nobody followed you. Dominic struck the chair beside her and turned back to the camera. Bring the formula, the 18% and the burn ledger, he ordered. The auditor wants the system, I want everything else. That was the first time the title reached me. The auditor. A second voice entered the feed through the guard's bracelets. It was distorted and calm. Day 10 will begin with $1 million, the voice announced. No bank, store, employee, or charity will receive it. My burn ledger opened beneath the video. Day 10 payment routes blocked. Pending balance $1 million. Dominic smiled. Come alone, Aiden. Midnight will punish you if I don't. I looked at the 5 visible bracelets. Then I looked at the broken segment no longer in my hand. Keep every guard on camera, I told Dominic. I want them to hear my offer. His smile weakened for half a second. The video cut. The Northstar pre-order wall kept climbing behind the hostage screen. I had saved Northstar in front of the whole city. By midnight, I would have to choose between the people Dominic held, the system the auditor wanted, and $1 million no bank would let me spend. The last million tried to leave through a Northstar worker's hospital bill at 8 on day 10. Her phone flashed $1 million, turned white, then spat every dollar back into my burn account. On the hostage feed, Dominic nodded to a guard. The guard cracked one latch on Elena's treatment seal. Her heartbeat skipped loud enough to fill the flagship. At the edge of the feed, Trey stood outside the loading door clutching his Crescent Ridge debt notice. Barrett signs, and I clear the estate debt, Dominic promised him. Trey nodded too fast. I crushed the rejected transfer phone against the flagship's hood. At 10:43 at night, with 1 hour and 17 minutes left, Dominic opened one loading door and ordered me inside alone. I walked in alone because 3 hostages were waiting behind 5 weapons. Gwen Whitmore sat beneath a hanging work light with her wrists bound to a chair. Northstar's CEO had 1 guard behind her and another near the exit. Livia Calderon was tied beside Elena's mobile treatment unit. The singer who had backed our charity fund kept her shoulders straight while a guard pressed a weapon against the rail. Elena lay behind the armored window. Her heartbeat filled the hall through the transport speaker. Dominic Reddick stood between them wearing a dead Northstar badge like it still meant something. 2 more guards covered the loading lanes. All 5 black ring bracelets stayed visible, exactly as I had demanded. Dominic spread his arms. The shareholder finally came without his employees. I checked the cameras above him. You brought 5. Dominic glanced at the guards. They're enough. The distorted voice of the auditor came through every bracelet. Present the burn ledger, the auditor ordered. Then transfer the formula and the 18%. I opened my daily burn account. Daily burn account, $1 million. External recipients, blocked. Dominic watched the full balance and smiled. Midnight handles whatever I miss. He placed a transfer tablet on a crate. The screen demanded my shares, Northstar's formula, and permanent access to the burn ledger. A wall display showed the hostage stream running across Northstar's internal network. Thousands of workers were watching their former president rebuild his authority with 5 guns and 2 chairs. Dominic pointed at the concrete in front of the tablet. Neil, sign where every employee can see you. He turned Elena's transport speaker to full volume. Her breathing filled the hall beside the heartbeat. Dominic leaned toward the armored window. Tell him to sign. Elena opened her eyes. Her voice came weak through the speaker. Don't hand him another person. Dominic killed the speaker before she finished breathing. I pushed the tablet back with my shoe. Your chair died 6 days ago. Your floor isn't doing better. The guard behind Gwen lowered his eyes for 1 second. Dominic saw him and stepped closer. Gwen pulled once against the restraint. He doesn't own anything here. Dominic struck the crate beside her. I own the next hour. 1 guard flinched at the sound. Dominic saw it and turned on him. You people were paid to hold weapons, Dominic snapped. Try looking useful. The guard's jaw tightened. Good. Dominic had started insulting his last 5 supporters before I offered them an exit. I switched accounts. My personal casino balance appeared beneath the blocked million. That money came from the roll at Vault 9. I had earned it through real risk, so the auditor's freeze could not block it. I sent 5 identical service offers through the bracelet channel. Every black ring bracelet lit at once. Gwen's guard stared at his wrist. The offer was simple. Own $100,000. Protect every hostage in this hall for 10 minutes. Refuse Dominic. Reddick's next violent order. Payment on acceptance. Dominic's smile slipped. The auditor's voice cut through the bracelets. Do not accept. I looked down the line. That money is mine. Touch accept, and the payment clears now. It stays yours. The guard near Livia glanced at Dominic. What happens when the 10 minutes end? You walk out with 100,000, I answered. He walks out with whoever still answers him. Dominic laughed too loudly. You think hired hands can betray Null Circle and live? The same guard looked at him. What did you promise us? Dominic stepped toward the man. I promised the auditor wouldn't erase you before the job finished. The wall display carried that answer to every Northstar floor. On the internal feed, a loading worker pulled Dominic's portrait off a break room wall and laid it face down. Dominic pointed at the camera. Cut that feed. Gwen's guard looked at his bracelet instead. All 4 remaining guards copied him. The guard nearest Elena turned his wrist toward the internal camera. My price filled the wall display beside Dominic's face. Dominic slapped the bracelet down. It lit again before his hand left. Livia looked at the nearest bracelet and smiled once. Strong benefits package. Dominic pointed at her. Quiet. Livia leaned back against the chair. You kidnapped a singer. Silence was always a bad prediction. One guard almost laughed. Dominic saw it and reached for his phone. I moved closer to Elena's unit. Her pulse skipped once across the monitor. Dominic lifted the transfer tablet. Sign now. Your little offers vanish when she does. Looked at Gwen, then Livia, then Elena's heartbeat. The 5 guards still had their fingers near the acceptance screens. Dominic needed one final push. I gave it to him. Do it, I told him. Gwen's eyes locked on mine. Livia stopped smiling. Dominic stared at me. What? You keep threatening the order, I answered. Give it. His mouth opened, but the auditor spoke first. Prove control, the auditor ordered. Dominic looked at the wall display. Every Northstar floor was watching. He raised one hand toward the guards. Kill them, Dominic shouted. Break the treatment unit first. The guard behind Gwen tapped accept. His bracelet flashed white. Payment complete, $100,000. He swung his weapon away from Gwen and aimed it at Dominic. The guard beside Livia accepted next. Then the man guarding Elena's unit pressed his screen. 3 white bracelets faced inward. My personal balance dropped by $300,000. Their payments cleared before Dominic found another threat. On the side camera, Trey looked at the 3 white lights, dropped his debt notice, and abandoned the loading door. He ran inside. The first guard cut Gwen's wrist restraint with a utility blade. Beside Livia, the second shifted her chair behind a steel support. At Elena's unit, the third planted himself between the window and the 2 holdouts. Across the internal feed, loading crews stopped working and faced the screens. At one security desk, a worker turns Dominic's old override card face down beside yesterday's Northstar badge. Dominic's kill line had purchased a mutiny. Expensive mistake. The 4th guard raised his weapon at the defectors. A stack of shrink-wrapped equipment split open behind him. Brennan Oakes came through the plastic and caught the man's wrist before he fired. Merrick's security chief drove him across a packing table and removed the weapon. The broken bracelet segment stayed clamped in Brennan's other hand. Inside perimeter established, Brennan reported. Dominic stumbled back. How did you get in? Brennan glanced at the bracelet segment. Communication weapon. The 5th guard grabbed the treatment unit rail and reached for Elena's emergency lock. I hit him before his hand landed. My shoulder drove him into the armored door. The guard lost his grip, and the man who had accepted beside Elena pinned him against the rail. Dominic grabbed his phone and called the internal control line. Seal the unit, he ordered. Flood the bay and finish her. Someone answered on the first ring. Captain Wesley Driscoll's voice came through the speaker. Wrong room, Dominic. The control booth behind the hostages opened. Wesley stood inside with Calvin Pembroke and 2 distribution workers. Calvin held the copied phone line. Wesley held the unit's manual lock open. Behind them, distribution workers rolled the emergency barriers across both side lanes. Dominic had used those workers as background in his hostage video. Now they closed every exit he might use. The control booth door locked open behind them. Now every weapon pointed away from the hostages. Wesley cut Gwen's remaining restraint. Calvin freed Livia while Brennan secured the 2 guards who had refused the offers. Livia grabbed Dominic's broadcast microphone from the crate and faced the internal camera. Northstar, your former president just ordered 5 men to murder 3 hostages. 3 of them preferred his severance package. The internal viewer count climbed instead of falling. Dominic reached for the microphone. Gwen kicked his dead transfer tablet into his path and made him stumble. The 3 paid guards formed a wall around Elena's treatment unit. One of the restrained holdouts twisted his wrist toward the offer screen. He pressed accept after the weapons were down. Service, condition, missed. Payment closed. He stared at the rejected 100,000. The man had chosen Dominic for 11 extra seconds and received exactly what that loyalty was worth. The first defector held up his paid bracelet. We heard the same offer. The restrained guard lowered his wrist and stared at the floor while the camera kept rolling. Dominic looked at all 5 bracelets. 3 had accepted my offer. The other 2 were on the floor. He lifted the transfer tablet again and tried the same dead demand. You still need my route to the auditor, Dominic insisted. I crossed the hall and knocked the tablet from his hand. He swung at me. I caught his arm and put him face first against the crate where he had displayed my surrender terms. 2 distribution workers climbed onto the wall behind Dominic and pried down his metal nameplate. They carried Dominic Reddick past him and laid it across the rejected transfer tablet. Gwen touched Northstar's operations key to the hall reader. ACCESS Denny'd flashed once. One defecting guard took Dominic's dead badge and placed it beneath the nameplate. Your remaining Northstar claims are closed, Gwen told him. Your name doesn't open our doors again. Dominic twisted toward her. I built this company. Gwen looked at the workers holding his name on the floor. You kept billing it for your ego. The loading door Trey had abandoned burst open. Trey Reddick rushed inside without a jacket and almost tripped over the fallen transfer tablet. He looked from the armed defectors to his father against the crate. Dad, you said this would clear the estate debt, Trey blurted. You said I would get my position back. Dominic reached toward him. Help me up. Trey stopped 2 steps away. The auditor's voice entered through the bracelets. Your proxy failed. Dominic looked at Trey, then at the ceiling cameras. Take my son, Dominic offered. Take the family name. Give me another chance. Trey went still. Dominic stretched a hand toward him. Trey, this is negotiation. Trey backed away from that hand. You offered me before he even asked, Trey whispered. Dominic's face hardened. Don't become useless now. Trey looked at the dead badge on the crate. Then he kicked it and the transfer tablet across the floor toward Gwen. One ceiling camera tracked the badge. Trey watched his family name land beside the rejected transfer. He stepped behind the 3 defecting guards. Keep the family name, Trey told his father. It already cost me $36 million. His father had finally found a status lower than abandoned. The burn ledger vibrated. Save Northstar, Labs, CO Botage. Shane, broken. IMPAT points, plus 20,000. My balance rose from 25 points to 20,025. A second screen opened immediately. SEC con hurt, 10,000 IMPAT points. Elena's pulse was still on the monitor. I pressed buy. 10,000 points disappeared. A white pulse formed above the screen and shot toward the treatment unit. For 1 second, Elena's monitor brightened. Her heartbeat strengthened, and Gwen grabbed the transport rail hard enough to whiten her knuckles. Livia leaned toward the armored window. Elena, stay with us! Elena's eyelids moved. The cure was close enough to change the monitor. Then all 5 bracelets turned black. The white pulse stopped halfway across the hall. A dark ring closed around it and pulled it into the event network. Delivery diverted. Null iPhone holding second heart. Dominic laughed from the crate. Every guard ignored him. His laugh died. The auditor's voice filled the hall. Elena's cure is inside the Null Circle annex. Your final million has no recipient outside it. A map appeared beneath my timer. Enter at 11:20, the auditor continued. You will have 40 minutes. Bring the burn ledger or watch the cure expire beside your account. My phone received one message through a dead bracelet channel. NNX. A location pin appeared beneath the word. Tamsin Rowe had sent a location and left the choice to me. I took the broken bracelet segment from Brennan. Wesley stepped between me and the loading exit. You don't know what's inside. I looked through the armored window at Elena. The trapped cure pulse glowed on her monitor, close enough to see and impossible to reach. The cure is inside, I answered. That is enough. The hostage hall was ours. Dominic stood alone beside a dead badge and a rejected transfer tablet. The full day 10 million still sat untouched. At 11:20, the annex door opened. At 11:20 at night, the Null Circle annex opened for 1 person. I entered because Elena's cure was trapped inside. The full day 10 million still sat in my daily burn account. 40 minutes remained. Tamsin Rowe's location pin ended at a black door beneath the annex sign. Brennan Oakes and Captain Wesley Driscoll stood behind me with the rescued hostages and Northstar workers farther back. Brennan handed me the broken bracelet segment. Communication weapon returned, Brennan reported. He stepped toward the threshold. The segment heated in my palm. Inside the building, 20 bracelet lights flared at once. A white pulse in the distance dimmed. Elena's second heart was feeding the same network. I put one arm across Brennan's chest. Stay outside. The auditor's voice came through the door. Bring your protectors, he invited. Every connected body strengthens the null siphon. Wesley looked past me into the dark entrance. He wants you isolated. He already has the cure, I answered. I walked through. The door sealed behind me. A narrow window kept Brennan and Wesley visible outside. Brennan struck the door once. The white pulse inside the building dimmed, and 3 silhouettes deeper in the chamber doubled over. I raised one hand toward the window. Brennan stopped. The auditor had built a room where rescue attempts paid his power bill. A circular chamber opened around a black column taller than any person there. White light twisted inside it. The second heart pulse floated near the center, trapped behind dark rings. 20 operatives stood around the column in 2 rows. Black bracelets covered every wrist. Each pulse from the null siphon made their shoulders jerk. One man stood above them on a raised platform. The auditor led Null Circle. He looked old enough to remember every person he had buried and pleased enough to count them twice. Black armor covered his chest and arms. Thin plates shifted whenever I moved. A dark ring sat in the center of his breastplate. He lifted one hand. All 20 operatives straightened together. That was his flex, 20 people suffering on command. The auditor pointed at the floor beneath his platform. Place the ledger there and kneel. The cure leaves with you. I stood under the trapped second heart. You invited a shareholder and forgot the chair. One operative's mouth twitched. The auditor made his bracelet flare until the reaction disappeared. The auditor glanced at the $1 million timer. Merrick entered with the same expression. I stopped beneath the trapped cure. You knew Merrick Langley. I killed him. The auditor seized the wrist of the nearest operative. Wear his last 8 seconds. The man's bracelet flashed. Merrick final window, 8 seconds. His fingers locked in the same order as Merrick's projection opened across the floor. Merrick stood in this chamber, injured, with $1 million trapped on his phone. Every route showed blocked. At 8 seconds, he opened one asset transfer. Next. Compatible user. EIG 18% Northstar. Estate Council and Security, package attacked. Merrick forced his locked thumb on to confirm. The timer reached 0. His knees hit the floor. Lifespan, deduction, 1 year, no years remaining. The operative wearing those seconds collapsed beside the projection. The man beside him caught his shoulders. Let him fall, the auditor ordered. The second operative kept holding him until he could breathe. The auditor stole 1 year from the victim's bracelet. A crack across the auditor's knuckles healed while the man gasped on the floor. Then the auditor opened his palm. The scorched die chip from Vault 9 rested there. Your role gave us the trace, he said. He dropped it beside Merrick's final transfer. 31 minutes remained on my own timer. Merrick had left me shares because money was the only armor he could send. The auditor spread both hands. He wasted his final asset on a stranger. I looked at the man whose year had just healed him. You built an army and still needed an old man's leftovers. Join Null Circle, the auditor offered. Give me the burn ledger. I release the cure, end your deadline, and teach you to take years. He slid a black membership ring toward me. I kicked it into the front row. One operative trapped it under his boot and kept it there. Return it, the auditor ordered. The operative shifted his heel and ground the ring flatter. Another recruit dragged the year-drained man behind the row. Nobody asked permission. Membership declined. The auditor saw the hidden ring and made the black column pulse. Every operative bent at the waist. Light left their arms and filled his chest plate. I looked up at the platform. Your sales pitch has 20 people shaking in it. The auditor's smile thinned. They are replaceable. One operative heard him and looked toward the sealed door. The auditor noticed. He drove one armored fist toward my head. I clipped the broken bracelet segment against my wrist. The network recognized it for half a second. His fist changed direction toward the false node. I ducked under the strike. The armored knuckles smashed the floor where the segment had fallen. Stone cracked. The segment stayed pinned beneath his hand. I stepped inside his reach and hit the dark ring in his breastplate. The armor tightened before my fist landed. My knuckles stopped against a solid plate. Then the null siphon flashed. All 20 operatives cried out together. The auditor's armor had used them to absorb my punch. I backed away before a second strike fed him again. A normal fight gave him 20 human shields. Every hit against his armor punished somebody else. The auditor lifted his fist from the broken segment. You cannot reach me without spending them. He reached toward the second heart and tightened one dark ring around it. Elena's heartbeat weakened across the column. I jumped for the cure. The ring discharged through the nearest 4 bracelets. All 4 operatives dropped to one knee before my fingers touched the light. I pulled back. The auditor smiled. Every obvious move hurt somebody else. Then he attacked again. I stepped aside and let his armored shoulder crash into the black column. The impact still drew power from the 20 bracelets. His own violence charged him too. The timer passed 24 minutes. I glanced across the 2 rows. 20 bracelets, 20 payment nodes. The same network carried the cure, the armor charge, and every blocked route. Tamsin Rose stood in the back row. The Null Circle hunter had burned hands under fresh wraps. A live bracelet had been clamped over one wrist. She held a short weapon at her side and watched the broken segment near my feet. I had followed her pin into the room. I still treated her as an armed enemy. The auditor pointed at me. Tamsin, execute him. Tamsin raised the weapon halfway. The chamber waited. She looked at the trapped second heart. Then she looked at the operatives bent around the siphon. Tamsin lowered the weapon. No, she answered. The auditor closed his hand. Her bracelet tightened and sent her to one knee. Tamsin braced on her wrapped fingers and refused to raise the weapon again. The operative beside her shifted one boot between Tamsin and the auditor. It was only half a step, but the whole back row saw it. The auditor pointed at him. Move. He moved his boot 1 inch. He left it between them. The operative beside her looked at the auditor instead of me. Then another recruit did the same. A third operative lifted his weapon toward Tamsin because the auditor expected it. His barrel stopped halfway. The auditor turned his wrist. The man's family image appeared above the bracelet. He finished raising the weapon with a shaking hand. Tamsin stayed on one knee and looked straight at him. He'll spend you next. The weapon lowered 1 inch. The auditor released Tamsin and faced the rows. She returned because there is nowhere outside Null Circle, he announced. Any person who copies her mistake loses everyone attached to their bracelet. Images of homes and frightened relatives appeared above several wrists. The operatives straightened from fear. Their eyes stayed on Tamsin. The weapons rose again. The family images stayed above their wrists. My timer fell below 18 minutes. I opened the daily burn account. Outside recipients still showed 0. The broken bracelet segment flashed under the auditor's boot. 20 live internal recipients appeared on my screen. One operative saw the same number on his bracelet and clawed at the band. The lock tightened until his fingers stopped, but his recipient address stayed lit. Its accept field stayed active. The auditor crossed the platform and struck the man's wrist away from the screen. It stayed lit. 3 nearby operatives checked their own wrists. The auditor saw the number and stepped off the platform. Those nodes are command lines, he warned. They receive nothing from you. I looked at the 20 people wearing them. A command line is still an address. The youngest operative glanced at his bracelet. A pulse from the auditor hit him before he could touch it. The auditor attacked again. I slid beneath his first swing and kicked the broken segment across the floor. It stopped beside Tamsin's boot. She covered it with 1 foot. The auditor's second strike clipped my shoulder and threw me against the black column. He kicked my phone away before I could reach it. The device stopped beneath the youngest operative's boot. He saw the $1 million balance, looked at the auditor, and kicked the phone back to me. The auditor reached for him. 2 recruits stepped into the path before fear pushed them back. Their hesitation still cost the auditor a second. With one hand, the auditor tore a support rail from the column and swung it across the row. The operative hiding the membership ring dragged the year-drained man flat. The rail missed both of them and smashed 2 empty weapon racks. Nobody returned the ring. One plate on the auditor's shoulder flickered. Tamsin rolled the broken segment from under her foot. I caught it with the phone and slammed both together. 50 grand for 1 minute where his orders mean nothing. The segment copied 1 live recipient address, then propagated the offer across all 20 nodes. The ledger needed a completed, non-refundable transaction. Acceptance bought the minute immediately. The minute would start when all 20 joined. Final purchase, $50,000, ON ACE acceptance. Right purchased, 60 seconds of disobedience. Service start, 20 S acceptance. $50,000 times 20 equals $1 million. I pressed send. Every bracelet in the chamber displayed the offer. The year-drained operative lifted his head and read the total aloud. 1 million. The auditor struck his screen. The offer returned before his hand left. A second operative turned his wrist toward the others so they could see the amount. A third copied him. The auditor ordered every screen lowered. Half the front row stayed facing up for 1 extra beat. My name appeared above every accept button. The auditor's command seal shrank to 1 line beneath it. 20 people looked from him to the money. Tamsin's screen lit beneath her wrapped hand. The youngest operative read the amount twice. An older recruit looked toward the sealed exit, then at the family image above his wrist. The auditor stopped moving. The offers were valid. I raised my phone so the whole room could see the full balance. $1 million, I told them. 60 seconds where his mouth has no owner. The auditor slammed both hands together. Steel shutters covered the exit. The black column widened around the second heart. Outside the narrow window, Brennan pushed toward the door. Wesley caught his shoulder and pointed at the operatives bending with every impact. Brennan stopped. The auditor pointed at the operatives. Anyone who accepts loses their family first. Nobody touched a screen. One operative lifted his thumb above accept. The family image over his wrist changed to a live door camera. His thumb stopped over the button. The auditor's armor grew brighter as fear pushed energy through the bracelets. My timer reached 5 minutes. 20 offers waited. The full million remained. Tamsin looked at the accept button. 5 minutes remained. 20 bracelets displayed my offer, $50,000 each. Each acceptance purchased 1 non-refundable minute of disobedience. The synchronized minute would start when the 20th operative accepted. The auditor ordered silence. Nobody touched a screen. He swept one hand across the null siphon and tried to cancel the offers. Every bracelet flashed the same response. Recipient control, required. The cancel control vanished from his screen. Every accept button stayed lit. His jaw tightened. 2 operatives looked at Tamsin. Then the auditor ordered every operative to turn their wrist away from the accept button. 19 obeyed. Tamsin kept hers facing up. He stood between us and the trapped second heart, wearing armor powered by the same people he threatened. The full million stayed in my account. Tamsin Rose stared at her accept button. The auditor raised one armored hand toward her. Think about everyone attached to that bracelet. Tamsin's family image burned above her wrist. She looked at it until the timer reached 4 minutes 48 seconds. Then Tamsin looked at me. Payment clears now? I held up my screen. The moment you accept. Tamsin kept her thumb above the screen. The minute starts with all 20? Yes, I answered. Tamsin pressed the button. Her bracelet turned white. Pay, meant, complete, $50,000. Service, right purchased. Daily burn balance, $950,000. One acceptance glowed above the null siphon. The auditor crossed the chamber in one step and struck Tamsin across the shoulder. She hit the floor beside the broken bracelet segment. Her payment stayed white. The auditor pointed at the remaining operatives. That is the price of disobedience. The operative beside Tamsin looked down at her. Then he tapped accept. A second white light appeared. Every white bracelet carried the same receipt, payment complete. Service right purchased. The purchased minute waited for all 20. The auditor turned toward him. An older recruit accepted before the threat landed. 3. The youngest operative in the front row pressed his screen with both thumbs. 4. The auditor's armor brightened. Stop. A woman near the black column lowered her weapon and accepted. 5. The balance dropped to $750,000. Each white bracelet gave the next person permission to move. The auditor saw it too. He grabbed the nearest recruit by the collar and lifted him toward the null siphon. You exist because I allow it, the auditor warned. The recruit looked at the family image above his wrist. Then he looked at Tamsin's cleared payment. He accepted while the auditor still held him. 6. The auditor threw him aside. A guard in the second row raised his weapon toward me. The auditor nodded, expecting obedience to stop the spread. The guard lowered the barrel, fired into the floor beside his own boot, and accepted. 7. His white bracelet opened a personal transfer field. He sent the $50,000 to the sister on his family feed. Her phone chimed above the chamber. The receipt stamped her street address across every white bracelet. The dark figure outside her door looked up at the camera and walked away. Another operative accepted before the auditor could hide the feed. 8. I rushed the platform and drove the auditor away from the front row. The null siphon bent the operatives with pain, so I stopped feeding his armor and kept his eyes on me. Your army is filling out my payroll, I told him. The auditor swung. I ducked, and his fist hit the black column. 2 recruits accepted behind him. 9. 10. Tamsin swept the broken bracelet segment under his boot. His armor caught the false node and locked one ankle. An older recruit used that second to accept. 11. His paid bracelet opened another transfer field. He peeled $5,000 from his balance and sent it to the annex guard behind the exit shutter. A brass key slid under the door. The recruit caught it and held it up for the whole chamber. The auditor watched one of his own guards sell the exit. Another operative accepted. 12. My balance showed $400,000. The auditor tore his foot free and pulled power through the network. Every bracelet flared. The cleared purchases stayed white through the pain. Family feeds opened above the holdouts. Dark figures stood outside their relatives' doors. The auditor faced the rows. Accept, and those doors open. Tamsin pushed herself onto one elbow. He told me the same thing before he sent someone to erase me. A recruit beneath the family screens accepted. 13. The next operative ripped off his black ring and threw it. The edge cut the auditor's cheek. Blood touched his collar. 3 holdouts stared at the cut, then at their own rings. Then the operative accepted. 14. A man near the exit tore off his weapon sling and tapped accept. 15. The guard beside him watched the brass key change hands and accepted too. 16. The timer reached 1 minute. My left index finger locked straight. Pain climbed into the knuckle. The burn ledger opened a red warning across my screen. Final minute. Failure cost, 1 year. Balance, $200,000. 4 people remained. The auditor saw my hand and smiled. Merrick reached this point, he reminded me. I kept the phone raised with my right hand. Merrick came alone. 16 white bracelets faced the platform. The auditor charged. I moved toward him instead of the exit. He expected me to protect the phone. I let it fall. The screen landed face up between the remaining operatives. The offers stayed open. I caught the auditor's striking arm with both forearms. My locked finger screamed, but his fist missed the phone. A recruit stepped over the device and accepted. 17. Another operative kicked the phone toward the back row. The next acceptance cleared before it stopped sliding. 18. The balance dropped to $100,000. My left middle finger locked. The auditor drove his knee into my ribs and threw me against the floor. He reached for the phone. Tamsin caught his ankle from the ground. The synchronized minutes still waited for 20. Tamsin had already chosen. The auditor dragged her across the stone and kept moving. The man beside Tamsin stared at the auditor's boot on her wrapped hand. He pressed accept. 19. $50,000 remained. One bracelet stayed black. The auditor released Tamsin and lunged toward the final operative beside the trapped second heart. The auditor pointed at him. Your family dies before the payment settles. The operative looked at the family screen still burning above the room. He held his screen with a shaking hand. My left ring finger locked. The timer showed 9 seconds. The auditor reached him first. He clamped one armored hand around the man's wrist and forced the bracelet away from the accept button. Obey, the auditor ordered. The operative looked past him at Tamsin. She was still trying to stand after taking the first punishment. He looked at the other 19 white lights. Then he bit the edge of his glove, pulled his thumb free, and pressed accept against the auditor's grip. The 20th bracelet turned white. Daily burn balance, $0. $1 million had left the account through 20 people. The auditor called replaceable. DALL-WAY-TEN, complete. The timer stopped at 3 seconds. My locked fingers released. The synchronized service began. SI-60W seconds of disobedience. Every white bracelet opened its lock. The operatives pulled their wrists free from the command rails around the chamber. One kicked a power contact out of the floor. Another dragged Tamsin away from the auditor's reach. The service clock showed 57 seconds. The auditor pointed at the rows. Feed the armor. Nobody moved. He ordered them to close the cure channel. 20 operatives ignored him. The auditor changed tactics. I will double Barrett's payment. Obey now and take 100,000. No payment field appeared on a single bracelet. His network carried threats. My contracts carried money. The woman nearest the cure turned her empty wrist toward him. Your account is closed. At 53 seconds, 2 recruits tore the control grips away from the black column. At 51, the woman nearest the cure struck the release plate with the butt of her dropped weapon. The white lights around the null siphon pulled in opposite directions. A crack split the black column from top to bottom. The second heart tore free. Every family image above the operatives vanished. Several recruits kicked their discarded weapons beneath the cracking column. A white pulse shot through the treatment network and vanished beyond the annex walls. The chamber screens switched to Elena's mobile unit. Gwen Whitmore stood beside the rail. Livia Calderon held Elena's hand. Brennan and Wesley watched the pulse enter the treatment seal. Elena's heartbeat jumped across the monitor. Then it settled into a strong rhythm. Her eyes opened. Elena looked toward the camera above the unit. Aiden, she whispered. Her voice came through the dying null siphon. The auditor heard it too. His chest armor went dark. One plate dropped from his shoulder. Then another hit the floor. The dark ring in his breastplate opened and exposed the core beneath it. He gave one more order. Kill Barrett. 20 people stood still. The room had moved without him. The auditor's face finally lost control. He slammed his palm into the exposed core. Red lights filled the chamber. Self-destruct, 30 seconds. Around us, the annex doors began sealing around the operatives. The older recruit slammed the purchased brass key into the manual exit track. The first shutter stopped, but the locking motor started bending the key. Tamsin forced herself upright and jammed the broken bracelet segment beside it. The door stopped with a gap wide enough for one person at a time. Move, Tamsin ordered the recruits. Your minute belongs to you. They ran for the opening. The auditor charged the core again. The self-destruct timer fell to 22 seconds. My burn ledger flashed one available item. ABYSS, shield ready. On, attack. 60, seek and bend. I activated it against the core. A dark shield wrapped around the self-destruct pulse. The blast hit once and stopped inside it. A bind snapped around the person who had triggered the attack. The auditor's right arm locked against the core. He pulled until the remaining armor split at the shoulder. The self-destruct timer froze at 12 seconds. Operatives kept leaving through the gap Tamsin held. The auditor looked toward them. Come back! Nobody turned. He ripped his left arm free and swung at me. His armor had adapted to 20 bodies carrying the cost. Those bodies had stopped paying. The auditor reached for the nearest escaping operative with his free hand. Shield me. The operative stepped out of reach and kept walking. His contract still had 41 seconds. The auditor had spent years hiding behind people. The first person he grabbed simply left. He turned back too late. I stepped outside the punch and drove my fist into the exposed dark ring. The ring cracked. He shifted his weight for the same armored follow-up he had used when I entered the chamber. The right arm stayed bound, so his shoulder opened before the elbow came. I hit that opening. The auditor staggered into the shielded core, recovered, and caught me with his free elbow. My lip split. The service clock showed 26 seconds. He looked past me at the shrinking line of operatives. His armor had lost its power source. He reached for the burn ledger screen. I caught his wrist and turned him back toward the shielded core. You wanted the system, I told him. Take the bill. I drove him chest first into the cracked ring. The core broke beneath his armor. Every black bracelet in the chamber went dark. The auditor fell beside the dead Null siphon. The service clock still showed 11 seconds. 19 operatives kept walking. The 20th stood over the man who had owned every command and removed the last black ring from his hand. He tried to order Tamsin again. She held the exit and looked away. His final command received silence. The burn ledger opened above my hand. 10 daily burns complete. Ownership trial passed. Owner mode available, compulsory. Daily deposits, disabled. Lifespan, punishment, removed. I selected owner mode. The red deadline vanished. The lifespan counter disappeared with it, and my hands stayed mine. Every bracelet opened. The operatives pulled them off without pain. Tamsin removed hers last and dropped it beside the auditor's hand. The 20 former operatives walked through the exit under their own power. Black rings stayed scattered across the chamber. Nobody stopped to pick them up. The abyss shield released the contained blast as harmless light across the dead column. Tamsin let the exit door rise. Brennan was waiting outside with Wesley and the rescued operatives. He looked at the cracked core behind me. Threat profile reduced. I wiped the blood from my lip. That line is mine. Brennan considered this. Shared tactical language. The next morning, 8 o'clock arrived without pain. I stood in the Northstar Tower lobby where Trey had once ordered me to kneel. The workers from day one filled the room. Their phones stayed quiet. Gwen stood with the operations team. Aunt Barrett remained beside Uncle's wheelchair even after someone offered her a chair. Brennan had rebuilt the red velvet perimeter around the old reception desk. He claimed the lobby still had tactical value. Nobody argued with the man who had entered a hostage hall inside packing plastic. Elena walked through the doors under her own power. She used her operations badge to open the wider gate for Uncle's wheelchair. The reader that had killed the hiring manager's badge flashed green for her. Nobody reached for Elena's tablet. Aunt Barrett crossed beside Uncle, still standing. Gwen watched once, then turned back to the workers instead of the camera. Elena crossed the same red velvet rope Brennan had used as a tactical perimeter and stopped beside me. She took my face in both hands and kissed me in the lobby where Kenzie had changed sides when my balance changed. The burn ledger interrupted while her hands were still on my jaw. It opened one final screen. Open, voluntary, daily. Account, amount, $1 million. Elena read it and looked at me. You spent $10 million and still owe me breakfast. I closed the screen. Breakfast first.